Okay, I think. Whoops. Okay, I think we're live. Welcome to the stream. Good morning, Grace. Who, by the way, we are very fortunate. Grace has unretired. It lasted, I think the actual retirement only lasted like an hour because she did a show that night. But like, I'm retconning it mentally to say that she made a grand return last night after seeing my incredible tribute to her. So that's the way that I'm taking it. But Grace is back in action. Unfortunately, though, I saw her talking with Grid One last night, and she was agreeing to come on his show as a debater. So, I mean, not exactly the welcome back tour that Grace deserves, but somebody too kept timing out Grid One in the chat, which was kind of mildly entertaining. Anyway, the big news, right? Manar is a fraud. Manar is a plant. We've got word coming in from numerous sources that he was fed all of his information. He was weekend at Bernied through these interactions with the Thorpes. In order to retire, you need a job and a skill. She evidently just decided to cater to the 12 nerds who give a shit, unfortunately. Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, you're this big YouTube star and you retire and then you decide you're going to come back and then you have to work with Grid One. Is that who you're talking about when you say nerds? Are you talking about Grid One? So Menar's a fraud. Grace is back. Menar's a fraud. Bethadone Clinic made an absolutely. I didn't want to talk about it yesterday because it was a Grace stream, but Bethadone Clinic released a video of her trying on some tanning cream that is just, I mean, it's next level. You got to see it. I might watch it on Boy Watch. I don't know. But she's got a lot of interesting stuff right now, so it's hard to say. What's up, JF? F Wood? Championship Wrestling from Jeremy. Hey, Jeremy, have you ever heard of this show called Night of the Champions 3? It's on Title Match Wrestling. It's a really bizarre show. It's got Dusty Rhodes against Kamala, and Kamala puts a nerve hold on Dusty Rhodes for like 15 minutes. It has the most Hulk ups and then crashes that I've ever seen, I think. What about the RV? I have no idea. I talked to Ruby about it on her stream very briefly, but I don't really know. I haven't talked. I don't have any inside information or anything. I'm just going by what I'm seeing on like in the chats and in the trade publications. Well, I mean, it's a nostalgia thing. It's 2004, but it's got a big crowd. It's got a bunch of like it's got Rick Steiner and Road Warrior Animal against the Powers of Pain. So like I don't know. I thought it was okay. I'm gonna review it just because of that ridiculous Dusty Rhodes match. I think that's it though. Is there any other news? What has Ruby been up to? Ruby's funny. I think the what I remember about Ruby yesterday is that she was late for work and she kept texting her boss that she was late for work, but then she kept delaying it. And then the next thing that happened, she was putting on makeup. It was like a great running late for work stream. Dirty Roads? No, unfortunately not. There are two guys though. Well, David Flair is on. Listen to this, Dadinsky. David Flair teams with NWO Sting against Body Count. If you don't, I didn't know who Body Count was. They look like two nails on one team. That prison guy. But man, what a match! Absolute ridiculous. Okay, anything else? Who else? Joy is back in Las Vegas. I'm gonna do a tribute to Joy's wild shorts she made while she was in New York at some point. But I think that's about it. Vinny Slugga has a playlist now. Alexa, record the hyper realism of Vinny Slugga. Oh, I will. It'll be probably an abbreviated stream tomorrow. I will definitely be late, but I'll try to do one later in the afternoon, like I did last week. I gotta hook up with Bethadone Clinic tomorrow. She's pretty lucky. Cam Dog got that. Oh, you should 100% be fired. You can't go into work late. Like people don't put up with that. You could get away with it for a while, I guess, but it's good though. I mean, it's a great fit for her because it gives her that little bit of flexibility. Anyway, I think that's it. Today okay, last week we caught up on the episodes of Sightings that we've missed. Oh, and also Friday, I found the missing episode. Remember, we didn't have the Evansville tape for December 12th, 1987. I found it. It's not Evansville, but we can watch it from another one of the like television circuits. So we'll watch that, and then we'll watch the last episode of CWA for the year on Friday, of their year, not our year. And then what else happened? Or, well, no, Thursday, George Dorunda. Tomorrow I got to meet with Beth Adone, but I'll try to do like a late, maybe like an hour and a half stream. But anyway, we're going to pick back up now that we're caught up. We're going to pick up Season 3, Episode 6, Psychics, The Dragon Project, UFO Hoaxes, and SETI.
On this edition of Sightings, a deadly force of nature changed her life.
Dreaming, seeing pictures.
Now, police need her help.
And no one can find him.
To speak with the dead.
I'm in 8 foot of water.
Sorry.
Come get me.
Then,
I can tell you that the Earth is going to open up.
his predictions have come true. Now, he says there are catastrophic changes coming in the year 2000 and later. A connection to the past through dreams.
Are there unusual special properties about these ancient monuments?
Scientists call it the Dragon Project. And then, is this
Sounds
an
like your
alien
exes
craft?
lined up.
New information suggests it's something else. Plus, a remarkable story about the power of healing. And why did the government stop its search for extraterrestrial life?
Good question. We ain't gonna be looking for nothing now. Our whole space deal's getting shut down. Do you think they'll just do you think they'll like glad hand it off to SpaceX? They'll just shut down NASA basically. It seems like a lot of the programs are like, even the telescope shit, which sucks. I love the telescopes.
Welcome to Sightings. I'm Tim White. There are certain people who seem to have a special psychic gift. They don't advertise with a 900 number or with a sign in their front yard. They are a remarkable group of super sensitive individuals who all seem to share a similar psychic power.
Wow, how is he so serious?
But the way they believe they became psychic is as different as each individual.
We don't know how it works. I mean, if we did, it wouldn't be mysterious. If we knew how it worked, it wouldn't be controversial.
I love like the Hubble telescope and the Webb telescope. I love looking at that shit. My favorite is the Pillars of Creation. I think that is so sick looking, but like all that shit is so cool to look at.
If we knew how it worked, we'd be using it reliably. Let's face it,
James
we don't
Randi.
know very much about how anything up here really works.
Greta Alexander is one of the world's most respected psychics. She's gained the trust of law enforcement officials worldwide for her
Is that
astounding
Large
work
Marge
as a
from
psychic
Pee-wee's Big
detective.
Adventure?
Greta claims her mysterious abilities came to her suddenly, in an
Hey,
instant.
Ronald.
The day she was struck by lightning.
And after that thing has begun happening, I would sense, and I would know, and I would feel. And from that moment on, I began dreaming, seeing pictures, which I know now is clairvoyance, and hearing, which is clairaudio, and just feeling inside, which is clairsensory. And that's how it all started.
Well, Daninsky, you might have heard about this, but did you see that they had somebody on Fox News? I don't remember what department they were with, but I think they were at least somewhat in like an official position in the government. And he said that he just mentioned it or dropped it, and then they just kind of moved on. But he said that we have someone on the moon right now. That's what the guy said on Fox News.
For the past 30 years, Greta has been sought after by police and victims' families for help with unsolved cases. But sometimes Greta is the initiator. She'll have a vision, seemingly out of nowhere. That was the case in 1993, when a cataclysmic flood swept through Kelowna, Illinois, and Greta saw one of its victims.
And he was just waiting for me to come and get him.
Yeah, that's exactly what you told me.
Come and get me.
Look at
Come
this
and get
cop.
me,
He's
John.
such. Is
Come
that
and
like
get me.
Big Michael Cera?
The last thing I can remember is, his patch on the side of his shirt hanging on, trying to get him above water, which I couldn't.
This guy looks like a default character.
I couldn't hang on any longer, and I had to let him go.
Ty Massey was only 23. He was a rising star in the Kelowna Police Department with a happy home life and a baby on the way. But it all ended for Ty in a rush of river water during a rescue operation.
He was in the air when I seen him, and he hit the ground in right at the
Menar's
waterline,
concrete bunker.
and started floating out into the river. He became unconscious, and that's what caused Ty to not be able to save himself.
By dawn, all hope of finding Ty alive was lost, while his fellow officers dragged the river for his body. 200 miles away, Greta had a vision.
One of the people had called my office and had said that they had heard on the radio that there was an officer that was down or that was in the water and needed help. So immediately
Does
I
Menar
felt
believe in
that I was
space?
Ty, and immediately I had to call to tell them.
As we talked,
He probably
we
feels
went on,
emasculated
and,
by
she
the
used
size of
terms,
space.
I'm in the water, and I'm falling. I hit my head.
I
I'm
think
smoking
John was a
cookie-
little mind-boggled by the whole thing.
Cookie
and you could tell in
cookie
his
roulette,
voice.
by
I
the
had
way.
more important things, I thought, at that time. We had 200 rescuers, we had dive teams, dogs teams, we had helicopters in the air. So we had a lot of things that was going on that I felt was way more important at that time.
That afternoon, John Swan was continuing to direct
John
recovery
Swan.
operations from shore.
John
Greta was
motherfucking
home,
Swan.
trying to stick to her normal routine, but the vision stayed with her.
Many times,
I'm
even
John
when I'm working
Schwan.
case, I'll be making spaghetti,
Secret agent.
be cooking in the kitchen, or
Boy, this these are some Tony Yo Man
doing
type
other
shirts.
Things, holding the telephone up to my ear and running the vacuum,
She
or,
playing a
or
violin.
putting clothes in laundry, and yet directing the people. You separate yourself. Your mind, you separate yourself.
But back in Kelowna, the loss of Ty Massey hit the town hard. His family waited in the painful limbo of not knowing.
It was unbelievable to think that you lost a child.
Oh my God, I accidentally lit up during one of my short reviews. I wasn't even thinking about it. I was just talking and I did a one hit.
Was
Hopefully it didn't get
unbearable.
flagged.
But to think that your child was
I don't
in
think
the
it will,
river
'cause they
and no
approve
one
weed
can
reviews.
Find him, it's indescribable.
Greta continued to call the Kelowna authorities, trying to convince someone, anyone, that she
Look
knew
at these
where to look for
shirts,
Ty.
man.
Finally, the skeptical fire chief had to admit that Greta's visions were proving to be very accurate.
I'm an
This will make
8 foot of
South to
water,
West
come get
very
me. And I was
nervous. This
so
is a
upset
very
with John.
full Mont Blanc tasting cup.
He just wouldn't do what I told him to do.
I didn't let all this known to everyone because I didn't want basically the public to get the
John
wrong
Ronson.
impression that John Swan
John
uses,
Ronson's would be a good,
psychics to do all his rescue. I says, that's the case, we might as well eliminate a lot of our equipment and just have Greta come sit at our fire station.
And I just felt like I got to go up
I
there
don't know.
and
Maybe
do
I'm
this.
thinking of Ron. Maybe I'm associating it with Ron Swanson. What is it now? John Ronson.
Because he isn't doing it.
I picked up the cellular phone, I was talking, and it was Greta again. She says, John,
Kind of
she
has
stopped
a
for second.
like a
She says, you're near the water, aren't you? And I was
porn
standing
name
right
to
at
it.
the river. And I said, yes, I'm next to the river. She stopped for a second.
John
She says,
Ronson.
I'm just down
Rhode
from
Island?
that big yellow green thing, or that big yellow thing, or green
Oh,
structure,
how old was
or
Ben when
something
this person
big and yellow
disappeared?
by you. And I go, I got her this time. I said, okay, we're gonna go back out. And thanks, Greta. I hung up the phone. And I said, she's messed up this time. And I turned around, and there was a big yellow-green fire truck right behind me. And I go, oh, wow. You know, so I'm, at that time, I'm getting very nervous. And because there's too many things she's saying that made sense.
Greta had gotten through. All that was left was to guide the chief to Ty Massey.
I told one of my new firefighters, get a pike pole, which is a pole with a hook on it, about 12, 15 foot long, go down to the third brush pile above the railroad bridge, and get inside the brush pile, and you have to go deep, about 8 foot down, and hook Ty Massey and pull him out. They went up to the North Command Post, got a pike pole, went down to that brush pile, reached in,
Cobb County,
and
Georgia.
pulled Ty out.
Greta takes very little credit for her work. She says she gives herself over to a higher power, which
How
she
you doing,
calls
Stinky Brew?
her angels.
I always thank my angels because they bring it to me.
Man, what a shirt.
And I always bless them. And
Before I do my
family.
psychic business, let me say
Because I
these
think
graces.
if that were me, I would want them
Ben
to
is an
leave
obvious
no
serial
stone
killer. I
unturned
agree. That's why we need to put these
in order
timelines together.
to close that door.
It's actually relatively common that people who see themselves as gifted view their gifts as being...
See, the Thorpes think I'm just watching old nostalgic shows because I'm a stoner. I'm actually trying to find any kind of, I'm trying to dig into the past of the Thorpes via classic television shows.
not really their own, but something brought to them by spirit guides. We have to realize is that psychic ability, when it comes to the surface, is not that
Who's
easy to
Rafi?
deal with.
But Greta is at peace with her ability. Although she first saw Ty as a drowning man,
Oh,
gasping
look,
for
she's
his
got
last
her own
breath,
little name
months later,
placard.
she had another vision of Ty,
Ben
reaching
was
out
well
from
accounted
beyond
for.
the grave.
How do you know south
I
to
think she
west?
called to
Wait,
our
are
house.
you the
said
the
that-
alibi?
She had saw Ty, and I can't remember exact words, but said he was so excited. It was like he had something to announce, something to say, and I just started crying.
He'd make
and
Grace
I said,
dispose of the victims.
Greta,
Yeah.
we just had our grandson.
And that was the announcement from Spirit. God had said, Ty's baby had just been born. A new life.
Traveling
Coming
the
up
country
next
with
on
your daughter
Sightings, we are now
so
going to
that
start seeing a
you
brand new pattern. There are
you're never in the
episodes
same
of
place for
rapid
very
change
long.
occurring in the earth.
Refusal to go to the apartment. Is there a head in the refrigerator
In
next door to
1993,
Jacinda?
Sightings introduced viewers to futurist Gordon Michael Scallion. He made
Oh
some
boy,
disturbing
Scallion's back.
predictions about major Earth changes that would soon begin to shift our planet's tectonic plates. Well, beginning with the Northridge, California earthquake, January 17th of 1994, a pattern of seismic Earth changes seems to support
Oh, here
Scallion's
we go.
predictions.
The future. We want to know what it holds, if only for the reassurance that our lives on Earth will be safe from catastrophe.
Like Dexter?
But sudden changes to our planet are on the horizon, according to futurist Gordon Michael Scallion.
I can tell you that the Earth is going to open up in California, and I can tell you exactly where it will open up.
Right under
Scallion made
Buffy the
this
Vampire
prediction
Slayer's
in
high
early
school.
1993, nearly 1 year before the devastating Northridge quake.
It will occur in the greater Los Angeles region. The bridges and highways, especially the bridges that cross other bridges, will come down. The damage will be extensive.
Make sure to underline earthquake.
Scallion was right. Los Angeles was rocked by the worst earthquake ever recorded in the area. Recently, we anxiously returned to Scallion's rural New Hampshire retreat to find out if the monster quake had altered his bleak outlook for the future.
But Northridge was a quite different quake. The most significant thing was that it was a vertical quake, which we had been predicting for
Wow,
2
look at
years.
this lemon
The
soup.
warning was, watch for vertical quakes. When they start, then the domino effect will occur, in particular 94 and 95. And then it will increase each year, literally tenfold. So by 96, 97,
Is this from a movie?
it literally will change the face of the Earth.
The result of these cataclysmic earth changes are illustrated in Scallion's future map of the United States. It shows a terrifying version of America, much of it underwater as we approach the year.
Okay, so this guy's saying that by 2001, everything you saw. Hold on, let's go
2000.
back.
And terrifies are illustrated in Scallion.
Okay, so according to him, by 2001, 1998 to 2001, this is what the United States would look like. So the Thorpes are okay, I think, maybe. Ava, Aphrodite, all the West Coast folks, Distinction, all gone. Jedi Rich, cooked. Jedi Joy's military, so she might have some pre-knowledge of any of these events. But this would be a neat little area here, these islands. Look at this thing, though. That'd be kind of cool.
Alien's future map of the United States. It shows a terrifying version
Yeah, 2001.
of America, much of it underwater as we approach the year 2000.
As I look to the year 98, 99.
Well, in Dexter, a cop trains his psychopath son to channel his murderous rage in ethical ways. But I don't know that that's
2000.
Ben's game here.
What I see
the island of
by
Idaho.
that time is that many of the major changes
Well, they have a boat, Joe. Remember? Ben's got a boat.
have already occurred. The Ring of Fire is the predominant
Cormacs are
pattern
gone.
or the predominant region of the globe that I'm focused on.
The
Bad for
entire
them.
western coast
Good
of North
for Fusion
America
Studios.
falls well within this ring of fire. It's a huge section of the Earth's crust made up of highly active plates, which lie underneath the Pacific Ocean.
The next major warning sign that would indicate significant, unprecedented changes for America will occur in the Cascades region. Should not
Imagine
Rainier
Ben
become
on a Noah
active,
Ark. Sorry, no
then
pun
we will
intended.
see a breaking up of the complete west coast as to make islands where there was permanent landmass.
Scallion's vision may seem alarmist to many, but the sobering truth is that reports of significant Earth changes are on the rise.
I'm looking
There
forward
have
to an
been
update on this
estimated
and see how it turned
20,000
out.
earthquakes and volcanic eruptions within the Ring
Fears
of
in
Fire
Mexico.
in the past year, including
Indonesia
major
quake.
disasters in Indonesia and the Sea of Japan.
The Ring of Fire is active, has been active, but
Mary
it's
Lou
accelerating.
Dragon said Ben is a
We are now
douchebag.
going to
That
start
could be
seeing
true.
a
I
brand
wonder
new
if.
pattern.
Oh my
And the
gosh.
new pattern is
Do you think Dorinda ever ate at the Ethiopian restaurant? I mean, it was within reasonable proximity to all of these primetime characters.
that areas
If there would have been well, I guess it would have been way too late. When did the restaurant open?
that were never active, where we never expected there were faults, we're going to now start seeing land movement there.
Perhaps the most frightening of
Ruby's
all is the
bodega
fact that
reduced to
mainstream
ashes.
seismologists and geologists are also lending support to Scallion's theories.
That's a hey Randy. That's a Alex Jones trick where they just throw a document up on the screen for a few seconds and it's like circled which part you're supposed to pay attention to. But half the time it's like Alex Jones' own website.
Thomas Henye is director of the Southern California Earthquake Center.
He will build an ark. I would love
Up until
that.
very recently, the dominant view amongst geologists and geophysicists with respect to how the world behaves is that things change gradually with time. But we're beginning to see more and more that there are episodes of very rapid change occurring in the Earth from time to time.
How's he gonna? Will he have to do
Are we
dono
in
goals
just
for
such
the
a period of
ark?
rapid change? Is the domino effect in recent Earth changes a harbinger of
This was
bigger
almost the
catastrophes just
thumbnail.
months
Scientists
away?
think each big
Gordon
quake
Michael
sets up
Scallion
another.
says yes, but also understands he has a
Multi-orgasmic
responsibility
theory.
for the predictions he makes.
I tend to wait until I see things occur over and over again in my visions before I...
The fact that Ben had an Ethiopian restaurant is so bizarre. Yeah, I mean, it definitely fits, though. I mean, I don't know. I guess we'll never really know the... We just have to accept the fact that we're never gonna know the full, spectrum of Thorpe life.
I make a statement on it.
Grab two
Dire
squirrels.
predictions about the future of planet Earth
OPC
may grab
Don
the
would be
headlines.
there.
But not all the news coming from futurists is bleak. On upcoming editions of Sightings, we'll bring you more predictions that offer hope for a brighter future.
When Sightings continues.
Natural location can affect people's behavior.
Is there something about the actual site memory?
The pyramids, Lords, Stonehenge, places of power that for centuries
Timu
have
Dr.
had an
Phil.
inexplicable attraction. What makes these places so special? Earth scientist Paul Devereaux believes sacred sites may give off an energy that affects people subconsciously.
Okay.
To prove his theory, Devereaux is conducting a long-term experiment called the Dragon Project. He's documenting the dreams of people who volunteer to sleep at sacred sites.
Why do people come from all over the world to stare at this pile of rocks? Why do people have spontaneous hallucinations inside this 5,000-year-old cavern? Paul Devereaux believes it's not history or superstition that creates a sacred site. It's something in the rock some kind of magnetic energy or radiation that changes people physically and emotionally.
Do you eat? I think do you eat with your hands at an Ethiopian restaurant? That would really save on like washing silverware and stuff.
Is there something about the actual
pagan invasion?
Memory,
I'll check
if you
it out.
like, the actual place memory of a monument that can affect us in subtle.
I saw a funny comment from you on Lol Cow Rejects, I think. Mr. Stinky Brew about Ben. You were like, he's a failed man, a failed husband, a failed father, a failed restaurant owner.
Ways that we're not directly conscious of.
But how can a scientist prove that energy from these sites affects the subconscious? Devereaux believes the way in is through our dreams. Dreaming is the one universal experience shared by every man, woman, and child.
Yeah, you like
since the
just
beginning
kind of
of time.
scoop it out.
While the physical body rests, the mind shuttles through a surreal movie that's meaning is still.
Now that does make sense why Ben would want an Ethiopian restaurant, because he and Grace typically eat with their hands and they kind of just, you know, everything's family style, no pun intended.
Still not understood. Are we simply processing random brain waves, reacting to a rich dessert eaten before bedtime? Or are dreams the window into the essence of our consciousness? Devereaux believes the latter and is testing his theory by having volunteers spend the night at several sacred sites throughout England. When rapid eye movement is observed, the volunteers are awakened and their dreams recorded.
In your own time, Tom, you can tell me a little bit of what you've been experiencing.
Okay, yeah.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Amazing. It's all coming clearer.
Yeah.
We're not interpreting their dream for them, but what we are doing is looking at a site, and if we say, okay, there's 20 people had perhaps 40 dreams here, is there anything in those dreams that is specific just to this site?
World-renowned dream expert
look at the
Dr. Stanley
computer.
Krippner is assisting in the collation and analysis of the dreams. Krippner has seen the effects of radiation on dream subjects in the laboratory, but this is the first ever field study.
Full
Together,
scope,
they visit the
family
sites
style.
chosen for the Dragon Project.
I've measured the interior of this chamber and also the King's Chamber in the Great Pyramid in Egypt, and they're identical because, of course, the King's Chamber is also clad in granite, Aswan granite. And it just makes us wonder a little if that was a factor, if it helped create an environment where altered states...
Ben is like it's like whatever good luck Donald Trump got in life that just lets him make all the mistakes and just nobody, you know, never really be accountable for him. Like, and everything just kind of works out. Like, I think whatever good luck Donald Trump is getting is like it's being siphoned off of Ben. You know what I mean?
Could develop visionary states. Because on the
He's the
Dragon
dark
Project,
mirror
we have
Trump.
had a few examples of spontaneous occurrences of people suddenly having very, very vivid, very short-lived hallucinations. And they've always been in areas of high radiation.
I think that he is one of the few people who is looking
Didn't we talk
into
about me
the
doing a
impact
deep
and the
dive? Oh no,
influence
hey, perfect.
of
Listen.
Natural.
We've been talking, I think, a while back about me deposing Ben. Why don't I depose Ben about the restaurant? Because I think that was another thing, is that people wanted a deep dive into the restaurant, like all the information in like one video.
Radiation on people's consciousness.
Madron Well is another supernatural site. Since the 6th century, people have come here, looked into the waters, and reportedly seen the future. Madron Well was the inspiration for the entire project, because it was here that Devereaux himself had an extraordinary dream.
Ben is a star, absolutely.
I had a dream in which I just
Ben's
saw
one of the most
a pair of
entertaining
hands
people on
drifting
YouTube. I mean,
from
it's
me, and
hard
they
to
were
argue
dipping
against
into the
that.
water. And
He does better numbers a lot of the time than Grace. Like I've said before, Ben is one of the absolute biggest draws on Fusion Studios as far as, and that's not me picking that. That's the people on YouTube saying this is what we want to watch. They don't want to watch Grace singing, you know, in German. They want to see Ben getting into it with somebody. Like Ben, the bass geese and wrestling are pretty much like the three highest for like views and engagement on my channel by far.
the water came up dripping, and in the dream, the hands massaged around the eyes in a particular way. And I immediately woke up and I went over to the water in the corner and went through those very actions that I'd seen in the dream.
Would Dragon Project volunteers have the same dream? If so, this could prove his theory of site-specific dreaming. At Carnuni, the ruins of an ancient Cornish village, Devereaux...
Maybe I can practice for Ben by deposing OPC Don. OPC Don, if you're watching this, me and you one-on-one on Lolcow Rejects, and we will break down what happened the night of the OPC almost got arrested, or the night before the OPC almost got arrested stream.
And Krippner examined the site of that evening's dream session.
The granite, because we're underground, the granite walls, the ceiling, these great...
If I do a show, well, if it's a show, I don't know. If it's just an interview, like I can. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think I could keep it going. Hopefully, Ben, I think would want to. He would. I don't see Ben wanting to stonewall me. I don't know how that would help him, or like what he would gain from it.
The level in here is much higher than outside.
We do have evidence from psychology that if you put somebody in a special chamber and alter the level of radioactivity or alter the electrical field, they will begin to have unusual experiences.
See, there's another Trump parallel. Ben can bring in his favorite journalist, and he can do a serious, sane interview. And then whenever anybody says anything about him lying all the time, he can point to that interview and say, like, well, you guys just aren't asking the right questions, like Mark Fusion did. See?
They will see things, they will feel things, they will even sometimes hear voices. So I'm here to give advice in terms of collecting, scoring dreams, and to see what objects come up in the dreams, and to find out if indeed there are certain clusters of themes and objects that relate to one place that do not relate to another geographical location.
That night, volunteers for the dream session arrived at Carnuni to begin their part of the research project.
Plus, I think Ben knows that I would ask the questions that you guys and I want to know about the restaurant, and I wouldn't really give... I mean, I don't really see talking about incest in the restaurant interview, unless, well, maybe if Ben brings it up, I guess. But I feel like it could be an actually quality, informative interview that people who want to hear it can listen to it, whether they want to, like, they're collecting data on Ben or what, you know, or whatever. I think it'd just be a fun interview.
Tom, can you just graduate into surface a little? Yeah,
well, that's why Hormaxer calls him Blubber Lips, Mr. Stinky Dick.
Yeah. I think you've been having a dream.
Do you think Ben would think it was funny, or do you think he would take offense to it if when I started the interview I introduced him as Blubber Lips Ben?
Yeah. Well, hold on for a moment while I just turn the tape recorder on.
What if he shut the whole interview
Then you can tell me about it, okay? Hold on a sec.
The Dragon Project is ongoing and will continue into 1995. While the analysis is not complete, some intriguing information is already surfacing.
If Paul does get some very striking results, it's
you
yet
think he'll
another
definitely bring
example of how a natural location can affect people's behavior.
If the natural radiation in these sacred sites is proven to have a measurable effect on our minds, the implications are far-reaching. Are we truly the product of our environment?
Wouldn't it have been a great work if I would have done that like as a joke and Ben thought it was like, you know, just lightly did it, and then Ben like left and Grace came on and like berated me for like she trusted me to do a real interview, and I let the trolls win and ruin the interview.
And what other forces of nature are shaping our subconscious? Will it one day be shown that the phosphorus in the seas, the chlorophyll in the rainforests, and sadly, the ozone in the air make us who we are?
Paul Devereaux expects to complete the first stage of the Dragon Project within the next year. All of the dreams that he's collected will then be turned over to Dr. Stanley Krippner for collation and analysis at the Saybrook Institute in San Francisco.
Coming up next on Sightings, new theories on a UFO crash in Canada. And a boy beats the odds with a miracle cure. Later, why did the government abruptly shut down the search for extraterrestrials?
Yeah, I mean, it would be a real, I mean, seriously, I would treat it like a real interview because there's a lot of shit that I want to know about the restaurant, and I'm sure there's a lot of shit you guys want to know about the restaurant. And I do think that if anybody could get at least semi-legit answers from Ben, I think I would be, I think Ben would give me decent answers.
On past episodes, Sightings investigated videotape of an alleged UFO supplied by an anonymous source known only as Guardian.
Guardian.
And at first, the so-called Guardian tape of what appears to be a UFO crash landing looked very convincing. But as we moved deeper into the investigation, our questions started to outnumber the answers.
These images were touted as some of the best photographic evidence
Oh,
of
true,
UFOs
Randy.
ever recorded. A videotape with
Hey, it's
several
me.
short scenes cut together arrived at the Sightings offices with no return address.
Oh, that is
The
cool,
label
man.
on the videotape had only one word: Guardian.
I can't let you know who I
was
am, but
Guardian?
here's my
And
thumbprint.
had he or she actually captured a UFO crash landing on videotape? Some experts now believe Guardian was part of the U.S. government's rumored UFO disinformation program. They believe that hoaxes and absurd tabloid headlines are
How many
planted
days
by
do
the
I need to
Pentagon
do to
discredit
prepare?
ufologists and keep the prying eyes of the public away from what they're really doing. Sightings
I
has
could probably be
conducted
ready by
numerous
next
experiments
week.
where we found it relatively simple to
We'd had to just take some time. We just had to take some time during some of the more chill shows to talk about what we want out of the interview.
create an intriguing UFO photograph. Is our government doing the same? In 1991, a small community outside of Ottawa, Canada, was thought to be the site of Guardian's elaborate hoax.
What you have is a little rural community in eastern Ontario, close to Ottawa, called Mannion Corners. A little tiny place, maybe 50 or 60 families live there. And in 1991, somebody decided that they would put together this UFO hoax and put out a video.
After the videotape was distributed worldwide, official-looking documents began to surface. Some were written on Canadian government stationery. Then, still photographs of supposedly
God, come on.
extraterrestrial creatures were released. These were an obvious tip-off that a hoax was being perpetrated.
I was gonna
so
say.
we enlisted the help of MUFON Canada's assistant director, Tom Theophanis,
Look at
and
this tech,
photo
guys.
analyst Jeff Sainio.
The documents are purported to be Department of National Defense Canadian military documents, but just a quick read of them shows that they're obviously falsified. So you see statements like, insatiable sex drive, their women prefer human partners. Blonde types infiltrate the artistic centers of Canada. It appears they need artists to get the message out. These obviously such hokey documents that there's no doubt that these are falsified.
Insatiable sex
Once we know
drive.
that, we have to go back and take a look at the video and say, since we know that Guardian is a hoaxer, is there anything exceptional in this video that could not have been hoaxed by a fairly motivated person? I couldn't find anything.
Well, and here you see two light sources. One.
I also heard, I meant to say it in the news part, but I forgot. I heard that Manar is flagging or striking or something Lol Cow Rejects over his appearances on the show.
Coming in from the area of the flares, is producing this reddish glow, and a source that's out
Is what I heard.
mainly off the ground, an external source of lighting, and you also have the strobe light on top, which you can see the actual shape of it.
Here we're seeing what appear to be 4 road flares. You can see the smoke wafting off toward this direction, the same way that we see on the UFO later on. Over here, the UFO is badly overexposed. You really can't make out any detail. There's no motion there, nothing but a strobe light on top that's anything out of the ordinary.
What would it take to duplicate these images? Sightings asked a special effects team to try and recreate the Guardian video. They used a scale model helicopter, an asbestos-lined truck, and road flares.
Okay, you want to show me?
First, the team placed the helicopter in a position similar to that on the
How
Guardian
tall
video.
are these people? My God.
Next, technicians set up a strobe light.
Why is
and
this
road
episode
flares
not
to
about
match those used
giants?
in Canada. Special
Gaynar is
effects
correct,
smoke was
yes.
added, and the result is not unlike that in the original Guardian video.
All of this happened because of
Depending
one
on how much
allegation.
smoke was added, the silhouette of the
She want
helicopter
to
could
marry
look
me,
like
bro.
a UFO
She think
crash
it's a
landing.
proposal, bro.
We tried to improve on these images using a pickup truck and the same basic flare and smoke effects.
And I'm trying to find out more about it. I'm sure Ava's talked about it, and I just have missed it. But I guess she got 2 strikes from the Healthy Family Force, which, like, damn, man. Like, that's brutal. 2 strikes is crazy.
Again, the images were similar, but like the sophistication of the original
I don't even
tape,
know, like, I don't know yet, like, even
creature
what the
was much
content
easier to
was, what the
duplicate.
issue was.
A 10-year-old girl, a rubber head, and black and white film was all we needed.
We need to make sure we tell
To the
Ben that,
untrained eye,
Jeremy.
these creatures might seem like the real thing, and that's
Who
just
would
what the
think that's
hoaxers
the
want
real
you to
thing?
believe. But who are they?
Isn't that literally a Halloween costume where it has, like, the long black cape with the white glow-in-the-dark mask on the front of it?
Psychotherapist Dr. Howard Schachter explains his theory.
It's been said, of course, that hoaxerism is all about
This guy out here
personal
throwing a
gain.
fucking
Very
frisbee?
often, the hoaxer is aware of what's at stake.
Oh my God, remember this guy,
The
Charlie's
individual's
uncle?
aware that there's something they're going to gain from all of this. They want to be a part of this great phenomenon. And they're used to, let's say, aggrandizing their self-esteem by virtue of seeing that the Guardian event is on every TV channel.
But is it realistic to believe that the Guardian videotape, the forged documents, and the photographs were all...
Sorry, I forgot this too. Yeah, man, that's got to be like... Man, when I had the one from... I've had a couple from Trisha, and then I had the one from the Foot Girl. It sucks, man. Giant beach ball head. Somebody gifted Flexum subs, or Flexum memberships, and I got one. And I went into her, I looked at the members only videos, and I guess it's probably a more accurate look at Flexum's content, but I much prefer her public, although there's one video that is fantastic, but the rest of them were just literally her taking her socks and shoes off, which, I mean, I need the art, you know.
all the work of one individual longing for fame? Or
Weed is
could it be
legal in
that
Indiana?
Guardian
I don't think,
is
no,
part
I
of a
don't think
larger
so.
conspiracy fueled by our own government?
I think every state around Indiana is legal, but not Indiana.
How do experts separate reality from hoax?
Because Michigan and
Joining me now
Illinois,
is
I think,
Michael
make a
Lindemann.
lot of money
He is
from
an independent analyst whose company, the 2020
people from
Group,
Indiana that cross the
conducts
border.
in-depth UFO investigations. There are a lot of people who believe that disinformation is part of the conspiracy and cover-up that surrounds the dismissal of UFOs by governments. Is there any information that disinformation
Hey, Russell
exists
Plunge.
in the videos themselves, that somehow high-tech's being used to persuade or dissuade people?
I think that we have
No, I
seen
know. I live in
some
Illinois.
possibly extraordinary videotape that was probably, you could say, disinformation. The so-called Guardian case from Canada would be, I think, in that category.
Is there any evidence?
Yeah, I couldn't do any of my yeah, if I lived in Indiana, like, I'd have to just sober stream.
That any government is involved in that sort of disinformation?
Hey, Vinny Slugga, did you see your playlist,
Well, I
buddy?
can't speak for the videotape part of it, but as for other forms of disinformation, I would have to say almost certainly yes. Governments are involved in creating the illusion of certain events or effects that are probably hoaxes. If it's possible
Caitlin
to
Clark.
penetrate the hoax immediately, and if UFO researchers
I could
proclaim
party
they're a
with
hoax,
Caitlin
I think
Clark.
in some ways that helps the cause. At least it proves that
How
not
tall is
everyone
she, like 6
duped
foot?
by this.
Michael Lindemann, thank you very much for talking with us.
Thank you.
And we'll be back with more sightings in just a moment.
When Sightings continues, a remarkable story of a young boy who baffled doctors.
He thought he was going to die.
Prayer, a time of meditation and reflection, is part of nearly every belief system in the world. For millennia,
Tomorrow,
people have
Sliders
drawn
in
great strength
Fantastic
from these
Land.
private moments of concentrated thought. Now, physician Larry Dawson
Joe, are you
is
going to
finding
talk to Ben and
tangible
Grace, or do you want
evidence
me to
that
message
many
Grace
forms of
about
prayer can not only
interviewing
heal
Ben?
the spirit, but heal the body as well.
A loved one teeters on the brink of death. While doctors do everything they can, the family feels helpless.
6
All they
foot,
can
nice.
do is pray. But now clinical tests are proving that those prayers can work miracles. They did for 6-year-old Taylor Hall.
Was very tragic for our family. It was
bright sunny day. He
Man, the
took his
90s
skates
got some
out,
crazy fashion, man.
And then my son, Chris, was in the front bedroom, and he heard the truck screech.
You could hear the truck coming down the corner. You could hear it as it would kind of screech, because Taylor was coming down the sidewalk, and as he hit the sidewalk, he hit a patch of rocks, and he couldn't stop himself in time.
Fire department came, and the ambulances came, and he was very sick. I think you know
A
that
young
the
woman
minute
and her
that
father were
you
filming
see
my
someone
child
who's
when he
very
crashed on the
hurt,
concrete.
You know it right away. He was in a pool of blood. He lost over 4.5 units in the street, which is almost half your body's blood.
Man, half the blood.
And he was ripped open from his navel all the way to the back.
Young Taylor Hall's life hung in the balance. Although he had the best in medical care, no one could guarantee that the best would be good enough. Could the prayers of his family make a difference?
I don't see it being an issue because it's Ben. If I tried to set something up with Grace, I think that would be... I would probably have to chase that. I think as long as, like... I think Ben would be pretty much down for doing it, like, pretty quickly, I would think.
Near Santa Fe, New Mexico, one place stands as a testament to the power of prayer. For nearly 200 years, people have come to El Santuario de Chimayo to pray, often leaving behind the crutches and wheelchairs they no longer need. Dr. Larry Dossi studies the accounts of healing by prayer that continue to this day.
Well, he stole all these
The question for
crutches?
us
What
in
is he, a
science
sick
is,
freak?
Can we go beyond people's stories
Oh, he's got an
and make
ascot,
anything
too.
scientific out of the personal account? That's the great challenge.
Dr. Dossi
Well,
has
that's
written
if
a
he agrees
best-selling
to do
book
it,
that
Joe.
chronicles the positive effects of prayer, a subject considered entirely anecdotal.
No. We're not talking about a show here, Fenway. This is not a series. I want to know about the restaurant, and I feel like if we can get the entire restaurant lore or Ben's perspective on it in one video, then that's good moving forward for people who just come in. They can get they can sit down and like listen to the complete catch up on the restaurant, like in one video, not a series, just an interview.
Substantiated until just a few years ago.
I discovered, however, back in the mid-'80s that there were some studies coming out showing that if you take prayer into the clinic or the hospital or the laboratory and test it pretty much like you would a new medication, you can actually show that prayer does something. Religious affiliation and religious belief are not factors in these experiments.
In the 1980s, medical researchers in Oregon devised an experiment to test the power of prayer under controlled laboratory conditions. In a double-blind
It'd give you
study,
nightmares? I
test
bet,
tubes
man.
were filled with equal amounts of yeast and sealed.
Uh-oh,
Half of
yeast.
the tubes were prayed over by volunteers. Half were not. Researchers were amazed that there was a significant difference in the tubes that had been prayed over.
Exactly, South
You
to
can do
West.
this with extreme...
Like, people can say whatever if they think YouTube content is disposable, but clearly people are interested in this story. So a lot of it is gone now, or a lot of stuff you can't see without somebody's biased commentary on it. No, that's, I think Crack said he's got the Hooplandia, but like, I think right now the only version online is mine, so you have to put up with my shit if you want to see it. Like, I think collecting this lore is like important because I think just people want to see it. So reach out to his business partner. I don't do that. If his business partner was on YouTube talking about it, I would. But like, I don't go out into the real world on this shit. You know what I mean? It would be presented like, is Grace involved? It would be presented like this is me asking Ben and Ben's giving his side. Like, I'm not looking people up in real life. That's a little bit past the pale for me. Now, if that restaurant owner all of a sudden said they saw that video and wanted to retort, then yeah. But I just assume most people, like with Courtney, if she wanted to be part of the story, she would be on here. So if they're not on here, then I typically don't,
See, and the differences in
If
the
that
growth
makes
rates
sense.
are quite profound.
Hey, Cosa
favoring
Nostra.
those that get prayed for. It frequently is the case
No,
in
quit
the history
adding
of medicine that we
episodes.
have known that something works before we know how it works. Penicillin was an example. When penicillin
Well,
was
no,
discovered, no one had...
it's not a fluff piece, Fenway. I'll ask the questions, but I can't force Ben to answer them. You know what I mean? If somebody else wants to give their perspective, but I'm not going to assume that like his former business partner is like really dying to get their side of the story out. So, but you can't I'll ask the real questions, but there's nothing I can do if Ben doesn't want to be honest.
Had a clue about actually how it worked, but we honored the data, we did the studies, and we could show that it did something.
No. I do. The FOIA requests are specifically because I was asked by OPC Don and Grace Thorpe to make FOIA requests about them. That's it, about them. Nobody else.
We're at the same point with prayer. We haven't the foggiest idea scientifically how it could work, but we have taken it into the laboratory. We have done the precise
if I was going to
studies.
contact people, Courtney is the story, but like she's not actively trying to tell her story. You know what I mean? So the business partner would be a 100th draft choice on who to talk to.
That it works.
Bolstered by the remarkable results found in the yeast experiment, San Francisco General Hospital launched its own Power of Prayer study. Volunteers were asked to pray for patients they did not know. 393 patients were prayed for over a 10-month period.
We had the prayers do so only outside the hospital. They never came inside the hospital, and the patients never saw them.
Hook him up to a lie
we
detector?
didn't produce any standard prayer or...
Well, now the budget of this show is going through the roof. We've got to rent lie detector equipment.
Format.
You know, the guy who invented the lie detector is the same guy who invented Wonder Woman and was into dominant women. So Ben would probably find a way to work that into the episode.
After analyzing the data, the results were impressive.
Would I wear a special outfit? Maybe.
Prayer from our groups outside of the hospital required less diuretic therapy, less antibiotics, and had less cardiac arrest.
In Riverside, California, Taylor Hall's family didn't know about the results of the San Francisco General study. They prayed because they felt they had to. Their little boy was dying.
I think Ben still likes to talk about it.
His entire pelvis was crushed under the tires. I had grave doubts about being able to put his intestinal tract
I've got a couple
together.
other things I want to
The
ask
damage
too.
was so extensive in the pelvic area.
Well,
huge open
ATF
wounds.
Media, I saw a movie, and it was kind of softcore porn, but I still trust it. It said that the guy who invented the lie detector was the guy who created Wonder Woman.
Very susceptible to...
And the lie detector actually played heavily into their first male-female threesome.
Infection.
There was a very good possibility that the infection that might have gotten in there would be the thing that would end up killing
That's
him.
why Wonder
The next
Woman
thing to
ties you
recall
up with
is
her
that if
rope
he
and makes you tell the truth.
made it through that, that
That's on Thorpe.
there would be a possibility
Thorpe
that,
tube
that
to
one, he
handle
might not be able
the
to have
green
children.
room.
He might have to have a colostomy the rest of his life. His ability to walk might be impeded substantially.
He thought he was going to die.
Yeah.
I think that scared the nurses a little bit because they said when
You could be right, ATF Media. That's just what the porno said.
But the family never lost their faith and dedication to prayer, that mysterious force that now
Jedi
has
Joy dresses up
mainstream
like Wonder
medicine
Woman.
rethinking its power to heal.
Oh man, Grace in a Wonder Woman costume.
The fact that prayer can work says that the
Be
consciousness, the human
professional,
psyche,
brain.
the mind can do something that brains can't do. Therefore, the mind must, in some strange way, be more than the brain and the body. The mind has some aspect, some quality, which can reach...
I could wear my half pink, half white jacket that's got all the sequins, all over it, and see how long it takes Ben to comment on it.
...out through space and time, as is evidenced through prayer, and make a difference at a distance.
Yeah, the Wonder Woman
In the
guy,
end,
he
prayer
liked
may
dominant
have been the
women, and he
difference
liked
for Taylor Hall.
he liked three
We
ways.
were both at the hospital. Steve and I think, I know I did, prayed on the way to the hospital.
Man, that movie
And the
is
family prayed
lit,
as
guys.
family.
It just seemed that we were all on the same level.
South to
we were
West
doing the
probably
same
wouldn't
thing
like
for
it
the
because
same
it's got a lot of
purpose.
pussy in it,
And
but
we all
I know
wanted
he
the
likes a
same thing,
more
that was for
like
Taylor to recover.
conservative
I'm fully
approach to
convinced that was
that kind of stuff.
every bit as important a part as
Hey, Cody
as
Turbo.
what the doctors did. And not to downplay what the doctors did, but I think it was they both worked together.
And when, after 6 days, after being ripped open, intestines all messed up, being, his back ripped open, his pelvis broken, he was walking with no cast or pins.
Oh my God.
He just, basically, it was kind of a miracle.
Yeah, I think it was a miracle. I think if somebody else had got run over and nobody prayed, then he could have died.
Well, it's my opinion that prayer helped 100%.
Oh, Jerry Briscoe.
A lot of the stuff that we were able to do as doctors was relatively simple, but the healing process was a long, extensive one with major injuries.
He's fully recovered.
I think it's called Professor Marston and the Wonder Women. It's really interesting.
He doesn't have anything.
He has he has his wife who's kind of like more like laid, more like relaxed and laid back and kind of like bookish hot. And then they meet this like just like smoke show like model dripping with sex type. So he's got the trad girl and the bad girl.
Major wrong with him. He gets headaches now and then, but everything else on his body is normal. In fact, he's above normal. He's skating again.
Ask him why he thinks God wanted the restaurant to fail. I'll ask him.
The healing power of prayer is gaining a wider acceptance. Harvard, Duke, Tufts, and Stanford universities have all conducted studies linking the power of the...
There's got to be like health department reports and stuff, right, online that I could grab before the interview.
mind and the power to heal.
When Sightings returns, our government was on a search for ET contact. Why did they stop?
The alien
Here
signals
comes
are
the...
coming
Ooh, look at this
from
guy.
An extraterrestrial intelligence somewhere.
In 1992, on the 500th anniversary of Columbus's voyage to the New World, NASA embarked on its own voyage to deep space. They devised a program called SETI, Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence. Their mission? Use the world's most powerful telescopes to search for signs of life in outer space.
I showed that Wonder Woman movie to a room full of like elderly
If our
people
government
one
knew
time.
that we got signals, a dedicated signal from outer space somewhere, they'd clamp a lid on it.
I know, you
After
can't...
less than a year, Congress pulled the plug on SETI. Some insiders claim it was because SETI had made contact, and the government
Like,
didn't want us to know
What's
what
the need
they
to
knew.
blur your face?
If the powers
You
that
don't
be
want your
knew I
family
was
to know?
talking to you, there would be a high price for me to pay.
Oh, he's an
Our
aerospace
anonymous
engineer. I
source
got
is
you.
an
Okay.
engineer inside the space program.
I thought he was just
He's
like
been
an
warned
eyewitness.
not to go public with what he knows about SETI. He recalls an earlier time when there were fewer secrets and higher hopes.
If they get nothing, it's been a worthwhile venture because we've tried. If they get something, it'll be the greatest discovery of mankind.
The search for extraterrestrial intelligence was launched October 14, 1992. Giant radio telescopes were aimed at the stars. Scientists and engineers listened to the cacophony of space noise, searching for radio signals that might indicate the presence of another advanced civilization.
It was used pretty much just like any other intelligence agency would use eavesdropping equipment, except it was pointed up towards space.
SETI was a breakthrough. After decades of rumors about covert UFO projects, the United States government not only publicly acknowledged the possibility of intelligent life in outer space, but agreed it was a possibility.
Okay, this is what I'm sending to Grace. Would Ben consider doing a one-on-one interview on Misunderstood sometime with me about the restaurant? Okay, sent. So hopefully we'll hear soon.
Worth spending $100 million to explore.
It's very hard to believe that the government would allow something this extraordinary.
I love Tubi. Oh my
to
God,
be released
Tubi's
to
like my
general
favorite,
public
dude. So many
without
great black
scrutiny and
movies on
censorship.
Tubi.
Almost as soon as SETI went online, our anonymous source claims that scientists started receiving intelligent signals from deep space.
I get a decent amount. I mean, it's a lot for me. I get a good amount of views though on like all the black independent movies they make on Tubi when I do reviews for them.
They call these artificial radio waves hits.
There were hits that were taken seriously. There were 3-4 hits, to my knowledge, that were strong, and it could potentially
on a
be
Monday?
signal
Come on,
from
Joe. That's not much
extraterrestrial
lead-up
intelligence,
time.
On a foreign body in space.
We need to make it so that we have like a day in mind. Like maybe we can say like Friday night or something. But then we can it'll be just enough time to where people can doubt it, but then they'll, you know what I mean? It'll build up a little bit of suspense. Monday's too quick, I think.
Located in the Mojave Desert at Fort Irwin, California, Goldstone Station
They
is
do
a
too,
quiet,
is amazing.
isolated place where scientists have seclusion and military security.
It's RF quiet, which means there's not a lot of background noise.
Established in
when they're looking for
2011.
signals. And it's in an optimum area. It's very dry. It doesn't get cold. It's really ideal for this type of search.
But ideal conditions weren't enough to satisfy some in Congress. They wanted SETI stamped out. Just 1 year after the radio telescope atop Goldstone Station began directing an all-out microwave search of the universe, Congress suddenly called a halt to...
There are these little filmmaking communities in Atlanta area. There's a place in Ohio that has but there are just people who literally just make movies specifically to upload them to Tubi. So it's just regular people making movies. It's fascinating to me. I wish we could watch them on here. But I know the stream would get taken down, but we could watch them on Twitch, but then that's I hate that shit. I hate copyright bullshit. What are they worried about? What if 20 people see their movie?
Everything.
Who's gonna come and watch a fucking movie with a guy talking through the whole thing if they only want to see the movie? You know what I mean? It's so stupid.
The SETI project, I think, was just a sacrificial lamb. It was a cheap shot for the budget posers, for the so-called deficit hawks. It's always easier to make fun of something that you or nothing
sat in front of the owner. Sounds like Ben would have been a real missed opportunity here as an episode of Kitchen Nightmares.
But some believe...
Ben, what you doing? Somebody's sitting out here for 2.5 hours, and you're back here looking at lingerie streams.
The cancellation was a red
cranking
herring,
it,
designed to keep the public from asking too many questions.
If they embrace the concept of looking for alien signals, they also have to acknowledge the fact
Oh,
that the
whoa.
alien signals are coming from
this shit is cool.
an extraterrestrial intelligence somewhere. And for certain people, that's not something that they want to either believe in or allow anybody to know that they believe in.
Some close to the project allege the National Security Agency quashed SETI in an effort to suppress findings so bizarre they felt it would send the public into a media-induced panic.
Their history in action in the past is a good warning of what they would do.
I should say too, Ben and I have never spoken. We've never been on panel together. We've never privately talked. So that would be my literal first direct non-chat interaction with Ben.
Happened.
But at the same time the government was supposedly dismantling SETI, private companies came forward with millions of dollars in donations. Hewlett-Packard, Intel, Microsoft, and others helped resurrect SETI. And from the ashes they created Project Phoenix. But rumors still abound concerning government involvement in this new incarnation of SETI.
The government likes to have control in
Yeah,
varying degrees. They have to have control at least a little.
I'll definitely
Perhaps
watch it.
most
It looks
suspect of all
interesting.
is the fact that Project Phoenix, like its predecessor, still has ties to Goldstone Station on a military installation.
I like Prime, but if you don't pay for the premium, dude, the ads are
They
brutal.
will be
Oh my
suppressed. I don't
god.
think anybody will take a chance. The government would never make that leap of faith that the public would be
Yeah,
able to
Tubi's got a
handle
bunch of. They have
the fact
a.
that we are receiving
They have an exclusive entire WWE brand that evolve on Tubi.
intelligence signals from another race, creature, something.
Well, it's not a document. I mean, I messaged her and asked her to set up the interview for Misunderstood.
From somewhere else.
It's not it's just going to be just an interview, not a
SETI
nothing.
was not the only government-funded program searching for signs of intelligent life in the cosmos. JPL,
It's
the Jet
somewhere,
Propulsion
though. Maybe it's
Laboratory
on
in Pasadena,
YouTube.
California, had begun an all-sky survey in 1993, but it too has been abruptly halted with no plans for resumption.
We can find out, Fenway. I'll be honest, it makes me uncomfortable to talk about Grace in that way, but I'm willing to, if that's what chat wants to hear.
1-900-933-7444. Each call 65 cents a minute. Average call lasts 3 minutes. Sightings is also online. Our email address is sightings@aol.com.
Until next time, remember, no mystery is closed to an open mind. For Sightings, I'm Tim White.
No mysteries are closed to an open mind.
The Sentinel.
Sci-fi world. Monday, Superman. Tuesday, Creatureland.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's what I would do. I mean, I really want to know. I legit want to know this shit.
A full-scale, long-term study.
Oh, whoops.
On this edition of Sightings, is Barry Pomeroy Castle the most haunted
Oh,
place
hold
in
on. Let me read the things to you. Sightings, Season 3, Episode 7, Barry Pomeroy. That sounds like a weed strain. UFO, Ghost Hunt, and this is what I'm looking forward to, Water Witches.
Directly through her, it sounded like this.
An exclusive Sightings investigation. Then, can the moon drive us mad?
O.J. Simpson happened 3 days.
Would I visit it with where Grace Goon? Sure.
Happened 3 days after the new moon. Both at night. Both using a knife.
Also,
if I were to ever like do a reel, and I'm not talking about a YouTube documentary that's just clips. I'm saying if I were to actually film a documentary about the Thorpes, you would want to see everything, right? You would want to visit every location. I would want as a viewer, what I'd like to see is to see the things that we know and that we view as familiar, but see them filmed from a different perspective, you know?
practitioners give us a rare look inside the world of Santeria and Paulo.
Yeah, Jack Harrow.
This elemental force is very dangerous.
Plus, is this the true face
Well, I guess Barry Bonds is technically B-E-R, but...
aliens or a vision shaped by Hollywood?
I don't know, man. I gotta... That's my failing on the
These
witches.
people have a special psychic connection that leads them to water.
I don't know of many well drillers nowadays that don't use a witch.
I'm on a homebound arc right now.
Be ready to get evidence. Get tangible evidence of your haunting.
I filmed them at some kind of restaurant, but I don't remember, or not, I clipped them, I mean. I don't remember what they, I don't think it was Patience, though. I think it was a different homeless guy. I do, I'm gonna do it. Water Witches is just oh, bullshit, Daninsky. Is that true? That one I think I clipped. The one in Texas. And I clipped them in one in LA, but it was I think it was a different
Fest approaching, there are
homeless guy.
ghosts and goblins in the air. Well, at least the papier-mâché variety. But in England, there's one ancient site where spirits and apparitions from the past seem to hang around all year long. It's Barry Pomeroy Castle, and it's earned the title of Great Britain's most haunted landmark.
The whole thing really about this place is amazing. The ghosts that occur here. We had a
Well,
strange
let's see
feeling
if
there was
Ben's
something
even
wrong.
down for it.
just
I don't want to
started
have to
getting
watch Patience content unless I
pretty
have
weird.
to.
It's always been very still, as though you're waiting for something to happen.
A dowser?
You learn to control your imagination.
I like it when a chick's a
because
dowser.
At Barry Pomeroy, if you let your imagination run away with you, you could be a raving
He's got to keep
lunatic.
In its heyday,
You gotta have like a
Barry
plastic
Pomeroy
cover
Castle hosted
over your
princes,
mattress.
kings, and crusaders. And since 1688,
Grace
no one
goes
has
all
wanted to
over the
live
different
within these
slop
walls.
on the plate.
Visitors say there's something evil inside.
It sounded like this.
Ghostly shrieks are heard, ghoulish apparitions are seen, and photographs have captured the dark side of
Okay.
the castle.
Okay, so Grace responded. She said, "Oh my God, that's a great idea. I'll ask him TN." I'm assuming that means they're on their way to Tennessee, so she'll ask him when they get there.
The crumbling walls of this once great fortress are perched above the desolate moors that blanket southern England.
Well, Ben's not going to
It is a
interview
land of
me.
ancient
It's not going to work that way.
superstitions, defiled tombs, and long-abandoned graveyards.
It's just brooding and...
like, Ben's obviously he's going to say whatever he's going to say, but I think it would be a real missed opportunity by Ben if he tries to turn the interview, because A, no one's interested in me, and two, this would be an actual way for him to get his story across while, you know, also showing that he's not going to dodge tough questions when they're not, you know, when they're, you know, about about something, you know, that he doesn't need to lie about.
Evil. The evil is there in the atmosphere.
You think Tennessee is tonight?
But is it only atmosphere? Sightings has teamed up with Tony Cornell, Great Britain's premier paranormal investigator, for the first in-depth study ever conducted at Barry Pomeroy Castle.
In my view, it's one of the most interesting cases I think I've come across. Basically because so many people have seen things and felt things. You don't get that in all hauntings. You can waste a lot of time, but there's enough evidence that I've heard that we've got to examine this.
Cornell's first step was to gather historical and anecdotal data. He sought out historian Derek Seymour, who has studied the ghostly
shit, they brought in
presences here for more than
Seymour?
70 years.
Every day I thought of this castle. If it was a lovely sunny day, I used to think, I wonder what it's looking like at the castle today. If there was a thunderstorm and the wind was howling, I used to think, oh, I wouldn't like to be at the castle today. Oh, no. The best-known ghost here is the White Lady. And the White Lady is, of course, the unfortunate Lady Margaret, who is seen to walk at the top of the stairs in that tower and down in the dungeon. She is really quite frequently seen.
That's your grandfather, Stinky
Folklore
Brew?
tells of two sisters in love with the same man.
Uh-oh.
Lady Margaret, the younger and more beautiful of the two, was imprisoned in the castle's dungeon by her jealous sister. There, she starved to death. Modern-day visitor Anne Benny recalls her encounter with the White Lady.
When we first went down the stairs into
Here's
the
one of the
chamber,
dowsers.
it was dark, it was damp, and
Oh my God,
it
this is
wasn't a nice
stressful
place
footage.
to be. But then this evil presence, you could sense it was evil. I don't know how to describe it any other way, really. And then I heard the footsteps, very quick, very light.
It's like being in
And
Skyrim.
the closer she got, the more panic-stricken I felt. I just wanted to get out of the place and not come back.
Tony Cornell walked the castle grounds with Jack Hazard, the former master
Jack
stonemason
Hazard.
of Barry Pomeroy. It was while working here in 1986 that Hazard captured what many consider the most authentic photographic evidence of a ghostly presence
Let's
here.
go.
It started to rain, and the wind started to blow, and I thought there was something happening unusual. So I got the disc camera out and I took 5 or 6 shots. And on 5 of the prints, white shapes came out.
I don't know. Hard to tell, Stinky.
Whatever they
Some
were, I have
people
no
back
idea,
in
but
the
it was the
90s
most
looked a
unusual
lot
something
older than
on.
they were.
Sightings also heard stories of a haunting blue lady. She is thought to be the spirit of a 14th century Pomeroy who was raped by her father and then bore his child.
Oh boy.
Legend has it that she murdered the child in a fit of shame and rage.
And this unfortunate child was strangled by the mother, who did not want it, of course. Now, she's quite frequently seen. She's very evil, and people don't like the sight of her at all.
Visitors Simon Day and Tim King believe the apparition they saw on a trip to the castle was the Blue Lady.
What we saw was a figure of
look at this!
an
Look at this
elderly
jacket.
woman. She had a blue dress on, but you could see directly through her.
She
and
was like a
just
devil
staring
with a
at
blue
us.
dress on.
And this noise started.
But when you look in the direction where it actually happened, you can't see a thing. There was nothing there.
It screeched and stopped, and within a second, it was in the bush next to us.
There was this really
I was in the bush
amazing
within
screech.
seconds.
It scared the hell out of us.
And they felt there that there was a power far stronger than themselves, and became absolutely terrified and went.
Terror also enveloped psychic investigator Bob Dolby, and it would not go away.
I was conducting an investigation, expecting nothing at all. I was about to leave, when just by the rampart walls and the stairs leading down, I saw this huge black cloud.
This guy's great,
and
man.
to me, it seemed
the mustache, the
hugest and
earring,
blackest,
the
deepest thing I've ever
bangs.
seen.
Dolby claims the black cloud, what he terms the evil entity, trailed him through the castle, then
White
followed him
lady,
back to his
blue
house
lady,
nearby.
black
That
cloud.
same night, he tried to use a Ouija board to make contact with the terrifying presence.
Oh, shit.
Is there anybody there? Aye. Yes. The glass moved erratically around the board, which was very
It'll be on
unusual
their
at the time.
channel, Joe.
And then she made herself known. She popped up. Isabel? She struck us as a very evil little girl.
Through the Ouija board, they met a little girl named Isabel, who revealed that she was the bastard child of a disinherited Pomeroy from the 17th century. The Dolbys believe she spoke through the board and then actually appeared hours later in the Dolby bedroom.
I actually went to bed early and left the group downstairs experimenting with the Ouija board, and actually had the experience of somebody sitting on the back of my legs while I was lying on the bed, thinking it was Bob messing about. I told him to get off, turned round, and it was actually a little girl with just a manic grin on her face.
Well, they both came to see me the next
manic
afternoon. They were so
grin.
terrified. And I can tell you that they were frozen with shock.
There are hundreds of stories like these, all pointing to a bizarre force that permeates these ancient limestone walls. For Tony Cornell, these subjective
Remember Claire
accounts demand an
Danes?
objective investigation.
To me, this is probably, I go farther and say it is, the most haunted castle in England. I'm glad you brought me here. You're opening my eyes, and I think that I should go back and suggest that we get in touch with British Heritage and that we do a serious investigation over a period of time.
There is something pretty potent here. There's a very
I can't imagine
evil
walking
force.
into a place and asking them to do a
And if
serious
ever you
investigation
encounter
into a
it, I'm
ghost.
going to Berry Pomeroy. Get out quick.
Based on the preliminary findings of our investigation,
Look at that cool
Tony
desk.
Cornell believes that Berry Pomeroy Castle deserves a full-scale, long-term study. The problem is access. British Heritage, the trustees of Berry Pomeroy Castle,
Yeah, that's really
are
weird.
not believers, and so far have denied all requests for an intensive investigation.
Coming up next, are
Thumbnail.
they eyewitnesses to an historic phenomenon, or have their memories been shaped by Hollywood?
We just have to trust our hearts and kind of sift through all this and find out who's telling the truth.
If creatures
My
from an
So-Called
alien
Life.
civilization are here on Earth, what do they look like? How did they get here? These questions are now being...
A long time ago, whenever DVD was like first starting to really get traction, that was a show that they said would be impossible to release on home video because of all the music that was in it. And before it was Shout Factory, a group of people left Rhino Records to form what would become Shout Factory, if you know who Shout Factory is. And they bought the rights to it to put it out on DVD. And if you paid a bunch of money up front early to help them finance it, you got like a real nice yearbook edition of it. Anyway, it turned into, and there was like a lunchbox. My So-Called Life had the lunchbox. Freaks and Geeks had the yearbook maybe, or something like that. Anyway, the My So-Called Life thing turned into like a complete disaster, and it took forever to get the shit out to people. And I thought for sure that was the end of Shout Factory, and like they went on to become this like juggernaut company. Like it's crazy. They own Alf. Like they outright own Alf. That's crazy.
being answered by two distinct groups. First, the artists and writers who create the pop culture.
Yeah, they got a
version
bunch
our
of shit
cosmic
on
cousins.
YouTube.
And the people who believe that they have actual
They own Alf.
first-hand knowledge, the eyewitnesses and abductees. Well, strangely, both groups have similar visions. So who's influencing whom?
The thing you'll never forget when you look into the face of these things is the eyes.
Very large, intimidating black eyes.
Very small opening for a mouth.
And Rusty
no
Hudson.
Ears.
Tremendous head, very thin body.
James
long
LaFontaine.
arms.
They're called Greys. Abductees insist.
Yeah, they
these
either
are
own it or
real
license it.
aliens,
Yeah,
and
they
that
buy.
they're a far
Oh,
cry
they
from what Hollywood depicts.
They own all of the old Roger Corman movies. You know, like all those awesome, like, you know, Piranha and Death Race 2000. They own all, like, outright own them. Like, they bought the, like, Corman estate. They have, like, a bunch of Shaw Brothers and, like, old martial arts movies. Now they're releasing all those, like, fucking amazing 80s and 90s Hong Kong action movies like The Killer and Hard Boiled and shit. It's what a that's just crazy.
And for the most part,
They have
they're
so
right.
much shit.
The creatures created by generations of sci-fi writers and illustrators are far more
Ultraman.
fantastic than the slender, featureless humanoids reported by abductees. But it is this
They got like
dark-eyed
50
face
million
that has come to
YouTube
dominate
channels
the
with all
public's
kinds of shit.
conception of what a real extraterrestrial looks like.
The more people know about what aliens are expected to look like, the more they're likely to...
They're kind of cool too because, at least in my experience, they've never suspended one of my streams while I was live. However, they do not, like, when it converts from a stream to a VOD, almost immediately they globally block it. Which, I mean, the stream is the important part to me.
describe an alien as looking like that preconceived idea. It's a self-feeding kind of a thing. In 10 years, there won't be any kind of alien except a gray.
Are supposed eyewitnesses seeing the true face of aliens?
Imagine getting sucked
Or
dry
is
by
their
one of these
vision
big
influenced
beach
by
ball
popular
heads.
culture?
I think it's both. I think it's definitely both. And that we just have to trust our hearts and kind
Yeah, I
of sit
love
through
those
all
movies.
this and find out who's telling the truth and who isn't.
There used to be a Criterion
The rise of
DVD
this
versions of
alien
them that were worth
archetype
like a fucking
coincides
fortune
with
back
the
in the day.
increasing number of supposed abductees. But is there evidence that depictions of greys predate the abduction phenomenon?
I miss my movie
The Greys,
collection.
I think, are not a
Hard
modern
Target
idea.
with,
Science fiction illustrator
Van
and
Damme.
historian Ron Miller has traced the depiction of greys in popular culture. He's unearthed suggestive artwork
Bam
from the
Margera, did he
19th
die
century.
in the fish tank?
From fairy tales, science fiction, film, a lot of
They had to
sources.
pull it at oh man, that
They go
sucks.
back decades, even a century or more. One of the earliest sort of realistic depictions
Man,
of
I
an
like this
alien I
art.
have from a book that was published in 1884, which shows the mummified body of a Martian. And in fact, it bears a startling resemblance to the modern picture of an alien.
But those early drawings are just a needle in the
Oh
science
my
fiction
god, look at
haystack.
those guys.
Thousands of creatures, from the sublime to the utterly ridiculous science fiction haystack.
Okay.
Thousands of creatures.
This is like basically the the alien version of my favorite YouTube emoji, the little like pink guy.
From the sublime to the utterly ridiculous have been created by artists who use a little science and a lot of imagination. Science fiction reached a creative peak in the 1950s when an atmosphere of anything goes produced hundreds of outlandish movies that seemed laughable.
Chuck Connors.
But
Did I
that
see
all
Chuck
changed
Connors
in
in
1964 when a New Hampshire couple, Betty and Barney Hill, were the first to claim publicly that they had been abducted by aliens.
This is a composite.
I want to say, oh my god, look at this nonsense. I want to say that I watched, he was in the Police Story pilot movie, Slow Boy, if I'm remembering right, but I could be thinking of the wrong guy.
That what they look like. Larger eyes, smaller nose, no lips, no protruding part of the ear, no hair, and a gray tone to the skin.
Ufologists embrace the Hill case as a significant
You
turning
incorporated
point.
at the
But
end
author
of
James
last
Oberg
month.
believes it was TV, not a real ET, that influenced the Hills.
A lot of Betty's memories are directly traceable back to a movie called Invaders from Mars. Many of the
Yeah, I
themes,
think
many
that,
of
yeah, I'm thinking of the
imageries
same
from
person.
that film
Tax exempt
appear in
status for the
almost
Thorpes.
recognizable form
Do they
in
pay
Betty's
tax?
story. In the account, there was kidnapping, being taken on board a flying saucer. There were needles being inserted into people's brains or other parts of their bodies.
Barney Hill's recollections of the abduction differed from Betty's in one significant detail. Barney claimed the aliens had huge eyes, the same kind of eyes depicted in this episode of The Outer Limits.
The unique feature here is these
That looked like that
wraparound eyes, the
moderator that
eyeballs
came in
move
from that
off to the
e-girl that was
forehead,
mad
off
at
the
me.
side of the head. It was very original, and yet less than 2 weeks after this face first appeared on television, Barney Hill, under hypnosis, suddenly
Looks like
remembered
Phantom of the
that his
Phantom of
aliens
Paradise.
had eyes like that, had eyes that wrapped around. Was it cause
Yeah,
and effect?
Connors
Did he
plays
see
like
the
a
show? Was his memory polluted by this
career
Hollywood version?
small-time
prove it.
thug in that
But
Slow
the
Boy
sequence is highly suggestive.
Police Story
I
pilot.
think it's very possible that these beings are able to control how we perceive them and
Yeah,
perceive the
self-imposed
experience
tax
that we're
exemption.
sharing
They're
with them.
sovereign citizens.
That they're very much able to manipulate it.
Artist Steve Neal also believes that he's been abducted and that his art is drawn from first-hand experience.
It's difficult to say why the gray look, the black-eyed, bubble-headed look has become so dominant. for any
With a
other
language
reason
analysis
that
expert?
These are the beings that are visiting here.
The one event that catapulted the cult of the Greys into mass acceptance can be summed up in
That's
two
pretty
words.
cool.
Steven Spielberg. His landmark 1977 blockbuster, Close Encounters of the Third Kind,
Was
has
he
been
in The
seen
Mad
by more
Bomber?
than 100 million
Chuck Connor?
Americans.
Oh, Close Encounters, for good or evil, had an
John
enormous
Moxley.
effect on what people expected aliens to look like. And if
I wish we could
anything
watch
really
AEW on
focused
here. I would watch that
all
with you
these
guys.
disparate threads into one sort of standard alien, it was Close Encounters. Spielberg himself was picking up
Yeah,
all
Tourist
these
Trap,
threads, and the descriptions he based them
definitely
on,
cult
that
classic.
Hynek provided him with, were of course based
Oh,
on, once
PC
again, a
Don
long
coded.
tradition of ideas and images. We would still be having maybe more variety in aliens now if it hadn't been for that movie.
Joe Alves was the production designer for Close Encounters. His original drawings were based on the early abductee accounts collected by Professor J. Allen Hynek.
I think what was unique about Close Encounters is it was science fiction, and yet in a sense it wasn't, because we weren't manufacturing something that was
Okay, we
convenient.
have an update. Okay, Grace says, I'll ask him oh, I'm sorry, I misread it. She didn't say I'll ask him TN. She said I'll ask him RN. And then she said, he said, absolutely, when do you want to do
We
it?
took these things from all the encounters that we could record and sort of put it into the funnel, and it came out with these kind of images.
An alien that does not look
Oh, wow,
like a
look at
human
this.
being is quite likely to scare the bejesus out of us. There has been a very definite evolution from the bug-eyed monster of the 30s. Gradually, you came into less monstrous-looking aliens, but still aliens. And I think the biggest shock was around the late 50s when we began to get these reports of direct alien contacts.
Kelly
Oh,
Freas,
yeah, we watched
known
an
as the
up.
dean
Well, no,
of
we watched the
science
Joe
fiction
Bob
illustrators,
Briggs one
is
time on here.
disturbed by today's dominance of the Greys. In a career
Dominance
spanning
of
more
the
than 5
Greys.
decades, Freas has created a rich
Whoa,
palette
look
of
at this
creatures
shit.
he believes may be out there somewhere.
I hate to think that the universe
Oh, man,
is,
this guy's
is so
fantastic.
dull that that's the best it can come up with. Are we supposed to assume that only one race managed to accomplish space flight and come to the Earth?
Whoa.
Or are there more races out there? If so, what do the other races look like?
Admittedly, there are similarities between abductee accounts and old television shows. But considering the vast number of creatures created in this century, perhaps the similarities are coincidence, not deliberate deception. Science fiction tries to create
Oh,
believable
look at that guy.
characters, and abductees believe that
these-
in a few
all these
instances,
aliens are so
they've
cool.
gotten it right. Abductees believe that they have seen the face of an alien civilization, and this is it. But Dr. Alvin Lawson, who has
Imagine the
studied
message
abduction
this sends
phenomenon
if
for
you
more
tune
than
into
10 years,
Sightings and you see
suggests
one of your
another
brothers has been
possibility.
decapitated and
Perhaps abductees
Tim
are
White has his
actually
head on a
remembering
pike.
their own birth experiences. With a surgical mask covering the nose and the mouth and bright operating room lights behind, could a human face look like this to a newborn?
Next on Sightings, experts offer a guide to a ghostly encounter.
First thing that they'll say is, you're going to think I'm crazy, but I don't think you're crazy. I've heard it all before.
That galaxy photo.
During this week leading up to All Hallows Eve, Halloween,
think octopuses
legend
are
has it
aliens?
that
They're
the
pretty
spirits
weird.
of the dead are allowed to roam freely on the earth. What would you do if you were suddenly confronted by what seemed to be a ghost? We're often asked by viewers how to document a haunting, so we went to our experts on this most haunted of holidays, and here's what they advise.
The first
How
thing that they'll
soothing.
say is, you're going to think I'm crazy, but this is going on. And I
Al
tell them, no,
Rauber.
I don't think you're crazy. I've heard it all before.
Al Rober is a psychical researcher with over 25 years of experience investigating the paranormal.
What's he got there, a little
Rober's
lampshade?
studies of haunting phenomena have taken him around the world in pursuit of hard evidence. Rober's interest in ghosts and spirits stems from his personal belief that every living being contains energy that does not die when the physical body dies.
Every one of us is made up of energy. Now, when we die, what happens? Do we go into a box 6 feet in the ground and that energy stays there? I don't think so. The energy has to go someplace.
okay? I think in cases of hauntings, somehow this energy stays behind.
You hope that
After
who
years of
doesn't look like
investigation,
Asians?
Rober has developed a checklist for anyone who believes they have seen or felt a ghost.
All right.
First thing to do is to start keeping a log.
Keep a log.
Put down what happened, the length of time that it happened.
Length
Put
of the
down
experience.
who was there,
Who was present
at the time of the experience. If there's 4 people present, did all 4 people experience it? If the activity seems to happen more often around one certain
They probably
individual,
made this entire series for less than it would cost
or
to
in certain
license
areas of the house.
the Halloween
person
thing.
should drop a floor plan of the house and mark each area where activity has taken place and what activity took
Create
place
a floor
there.
plan.
Have a camera ready, preferably a Polaroid camera, or a tape recorder ready. Be ready to get evidence, get tangible evidence of your haunting.
In addition to recording every aspect of your experience, Rober suggests doing some outside research. Find out everything you can about the history of your house, the land it sits on, and other ghost phenomena that have been reported nearby. If the haunting continues and is frightening to you, Rober suggests contacting a psychic.
There are those psychics that claim that they can actually absorb the spirit into their own person and then release it at a later time through meditation.
Although psychics can help, Rober believes that the best way to deal with a haunting is to embrace it as a once-in-a-lifetime experience.
Embrace it,
I
wow.
would tell them to attempt to learn to coexist with it for the time being. If they can coexist with it, if they can somehow reduce their own tensions, then I think what they'll find is the activity will decrease.
Liver King? He's still around?
One more important step is to look for any natural occurrences that could explain away the haunting, in particular, the site's proximity to high-tension wires. The physical effects of EMFs, electromagnetic fields, are hotly debated, but it does seem to have an influence in many haunting cases.
When Sightings continues.
We don't go and put a
Oh
gun to your
shit,
head.
voodoo.
We take your name, we put it in the pot, and then you will drop dead somewhere in the street.
Inside the world of Santeria and Paulo. Then, deadly effects of the moon and the Water Witch's gift.
Oh my god, what a lineup.
The day after the invasion of Panama in 1989, U.S. forces discovered a strange house in the Panamanian jungle owned by then-General Manuel Noriega. Inside, rooms had been turned into occult shrines. There were remains from animal sacrifices, jars filled with blood, bone, and herbs, and cryptic curses defaming Noriega's enemies, including then-President George Bush. It was a rare glimpse at the
Liver King
international
would be drunk
power
for
of
months.
a little-known and much misunderstood religion called Santeria.
Oh, this is
What
gonna be
started
great.
as a small sect of wildly devout worshippers in one African tribe has
You guys
spread
ever watch
significantly.
any of those Mondo movies from back in like this? I think they're mostly 70s, but I'm sure they probably made some in the 80s. But like, they would just take little like camera teams all over the world to like film like different local cultural stuff, and it was normally like had topless chicks, or like they'd go to the red light district in places, and it was just like a naughty travel, like a naughty and violent travel log kind of.
Across the Atlantic to
I always
Cuba,
thought those were
then
really
Miami.
fun. They were like a little
And now,
global
the power
boy
of
watch back in the
Santeria
day.
is felt from New York to Los Angeles, from Caracas to Tierra del Fuego. Fostered by slave trading in the last century and exposure to Catholicism in this century.
The religion was originally practiced by the Yoruba in what is today southwestern
Dom
Nigeria,
DeLuise.
mainly. When the Yoruba came to Cuba as slaves, they had to make certain adaptations to the environment, and the resulting religion is Santeria.
But when East met West, some Santeros
When
split from the
south
largely
to
benign
west.
practices of Santerio to form Palo, a religion that turned spirits into demons and corpses into objects of worship.
We have to have an actual spirit that will do our bidding. So there are ceremonies where they go into the cemetery and they disinter a body, and they ask if they can use that spirit of that corpse. And if the spirit of that corpse says yes, that it will do what the palero asks, then yes, we take different pieces of bone from it, whether it's the skull, fingertip bones, or shin bones, and we incorporate those into the pot.
The dark rituals of Palo are often confused with Santeria because to satisfy the spirits, both religions practice
Octopus
animal
pilots?
sacrifice.
We don't kill cats and dogs. Okay, no pets.
Interesting
we use
statue
goats,
back
we
here,
use
man.
lambs
That's trippy,
and
dude.
chickens, and we do eat these animals. We don't torture the animal. The person who does the animal sacrifice is trained so that the animal is killed instantly.
House brown. With the
Santeria
lighting.
and Palo also share a belief in the power
Dude,
of
this
spirit
looks
possession.
lit, man.
In Santeria, spirits, called orishas, are summoned through music and prayer and are believed to enter the bodies of the worshippers.
They shave your head, they cut a small cut in your scalp, and implant actually the essence of the orisha, the power of the orisha inside your head. You become known as Iyawo. Iyawo means the wife of the orisha. Even if you're a male, you're still the wife of the orisha.
Once you go into the room of the initiation, you feel the vibes, you feel energies, something different.
During these
Man, I'd be great
initiation
at playing
ceremonies,
like bongo.
believers enter an altered state where their mind and body are given over to the orisha. Santeros believe that in this altered state, miracles can happen. Jackie Rodriguez, a Cuban-American baptized in the Catholic Church, was initiated into Santeria at 22. She was looking for hope and healing
don't have a
after
crystal
a series
ball.
of difficult miscarriages.
The doctor said that I should stop trying to have babies because it was going to be worse for me or I was going to cause some kind of complication.
Jackie believes it was the power of her orisha that
Wow,
helped her
did you see?
sustain a new
Wow.
life within her.
He got
Well, when I went to the
power of her orisha.
some kind of complication.
Jackie
He
believes
ain't
it
gonna
was
miss
the
an
power of her
opportunity.
orisha that helped her sustain a new life within her.
Well, when I went to the
better
doctor, I was
already
scared when he
smell
said I
awful.
was
Come
pregnant.
on.
I said, oh no, because I was already scared of losing them. And he said, well, this one looks like it's pretty good and it looks okay. Your pregnancy looks well. And I was shocked. The doctor was shocked as well.
Jackie's son is now 8 years old and a Santeria initiate.
Working as a chef.
Jackie herself has become a priestess and is dedicated to
What is
helping
going
others
on with
use
these
Santeria
people?
for good.
Anybody
Ooh,
can
here we
be
go.
initiated.
Conrado Garcia.
The religion has people from all kinds of social backgrounds. It is a family religion.
With more than 5 million members in the U.S., Santeria tries to distance itself from Palo, where the power of the orishas is used for evil. The same rituals that create life for Santeros are used to curse and even kill through Palo.
We don't go and put a gun to your head. What we do is we take your name, we put it in the pot, and we do our ceremonies. And then you will drop dead somewhere in the street. But I want to stress
Bizarro,
to you
Carolyn Lee.
that the majority of the
Jimmy
paleros do
Snuka.
not do evil. Usually, most of the spells they do is to cure and heal people. The only time you actually see them doing evil is in self-defense, when somebody else is trying
This
to
is
hurt them.
great. I love this.
The centerpiece for Palo ceremonies is the nganga, an iron cauldron filled with ritual items like
Oh,
herbs,
shit,
nails,
man,
and
that's
sometimes
weird.
human remains. This ceremonial soup is thought to attract the orishas.
Ceremonial
both spring
soup. Is
from
that
the
anything
nganga.
like golden goo?
When you're dealing with this elemental force, it's very dangerous. If you don't know what you're doing, you can hurt yourself, you see. So when I go and do a spell on somebody, I go in front of my pot and I ask my pot, am I justified in doing this spell for this person?
That's what I do,
If the
too.
pot tells me no,
Am I
no matter how
justified
much
in
money,
doing
no
this?
matter how much they try to persuade me, I will not do it.
Ngangas have led to the popular but erroneous belief that human sacrifices are part of Santeria and Palo. Poleros insist the innocent have nothing to fear from their practices.
Wow.
Jim
So
Dibble was
okay.
the U.S. Army's leading occult
Wow.
expert when he came face to
Do you
face
kill
with the
people?
dark side of Palo
Well, innocent
during a
people have
raid on the
nothing to worry
so-called
about.
witch house of Manuel Noriega.
Uh-oh.
Upon entering this house,
Jimmy
located
Dibble.
in Fort Amador, it became apparent to me that, in fact, what we were looking at was not drugs, but what it was were manifestations of a more deviant practicing of Santeria.
The
He got
house was
shook
devoted
down.
to Palo and black magic. Among the items, a split cow's tongue, nailed shut and
Let me
buried
tell you
in
what I got
rice
for y'all today,
inside
man.
the
I got
names
a
of Noriega's
split
enemies.
cow's tongue covered in
When I
rice,
first
baby.
was able
2
to
motherfucking peppers
discover
on the
that
side.
these items were linked directly to Noriega, I was astounded. Not only because a world leader was bound by these beliefs, guided by these beliefs, but this
That's
is the
really
first
neat
time I
looking.
had been able to see these types of examples, these manifestations in reality.
Hundreds of politicians and world leaders were named in curses called workings.
I encountered a number of workings that involved George Bush.
Oh, of course, Randy.
Typically,
I've got
George
an episode
Bush's
of
name
that
would be written on a piece of paper.
lined up. I just
And then
I
this
have
piece
for
of
like
paper would
8
be
months. I
placed
just
either in
always forget
gelatin
about it.
or in cornmeal, and then wrapped. In the case of cornmeal, it would be wrapped in a banana leaf, tied securely, and placed in the freezer. It's not hard to see that Noriega was trying to influence the way George Bush thought about him and the way he acted against him.
Noriega believed these workings empowered him and that he could control his enemies through the spells he cast.
Oh, I'm sure that'll
They can
work.
use a spell to sweeten you. They can use a spell to
The geezer
make your life a
spell.
bit of misery. They can use the spell to bring you good fortune. And judging
The naked
from
man,
what
pull the
was
gun.
done there, I would say that these were spells used to control, to put these people under his control, so they would do his bidding.
While Palo continues to operate in the shadows, Santeria has an open door policy and is accessible through neighborhood botanicas.
Botanica, that's where Ruby needs to start going, to the Botanica. Look at this cool shit there, 175 bucks. Scented, wait a second, what was that? Scented oil allegations.
Really interesting paraphernalia here, which is really
Scented oil alleged.
the basis for the religion. Kari here is the owner of this botanica. She has an increasing number of Americans becoming involved and interested in Santeria and Palo.
Santeria has
this looks
no
awesome, man.
aspect that needs to be feared by
Yeah,
people in the
I've seen
United
some of
States.
them that have
Well,
gotten real
certainly
bad hurt or
it has
died.
an aspect that could be manipulated for destructive purposes.
They say man is
I also watch like tons of documentaries and anything I can find about people that own weird, inappropriate animals to have in a personal home. And there's so many stories of people dying, like getting killed by their snakes.
is only afraid of what he doesn't.
And one guy that got ate by his Komodo dragons.
No, once you know what Palo is, you really shouldn't be afraid of it, because all Palo is a religion of natural.
George
elements.
Durunda
It's
ain't
what
gonna
is
interview
with
that. I
nature.
guarantee you wouldn't
I
talk
think
to
the
these
most
people.
important thing is that we're not here to hurt anybody. We're just here to help those who
Ruby
we
in
can
a
help
hijab.
and who the Orishas let us help.
As the American military's leading authority on the occult, James Dibble would seem to be a prime target for the wrath of Santeros. Dibble has experienced some unusual occurrences, mostly mechanical and electrical malfunctions, while he's lecturing about the occult. But so far, he has escaped the deadly curse of Palo Mayombe.
Coming up next on Sightings.
Some nights you'll get people talking to street lights, barking like dogs.
Things go a little crazy at the time of full moon.
For millennia, humankind has looked to the moon with wonder and awe. Our nearest neighbor in space has inspired lovers, scientists, and madmen. In fact, the word lunatic has at its root the Latin word for moon. The moon's effect on our planet can be measured with the tides. But what about...
Any plans to do more IRL? I want to. It's just a motivation issue, really. It's really hot out and yeah, it's just kind of a pain to make it lately. But yeah, I mean, I definitely want to, for sure.
About its effect on human
Hey, Distinction.
beings.
Did you hear the news, Distinction, that I'm going to be conducting an incredibly candid tell-all interview with Ben Thorpe?
If the Simpson crime had happened 400 years ago, people finding two badly mutilated
That's what we should
bodies
call
with
Fernando,
animal paw prints, 'cause the dog
Jorge
was present
Duranda.
on the scene, they might have said,
He kept texting Ruby while she was trying to stream, and it's making her so mad.
The LA riots was, I think, 3 days before the new moon. O.J. Simpson happened 3 days after the new moon. The Bobbitt incident happened 3 days after the new moon, both at night, both using a knife.
It is a beautiful sight. The full moon rising high in the night sky. But while the moon casts its heavenly glow, it seems all hell breaks loose on Earth. During the full moon, reports of murder, violence, and admissions to psychiatric hospitals all rise. Many scientists say moon madness is myth, But at the Griffith Observatory in Los Angeles, calls come in daily insisting there is a link.
If you ask emergency personnel,
Oh boy.
police, fire, doctors, what influence does the moon have, they'll all tell you for certain things go a little crazy at the time of full moon.
Tonight, yeah, we had a guy that apparently was trying to kill himself and
Gray's gonna put me on a camel in the thumbnail.
To the handle and was running around the house. And when the officers got there, they were trying to calm him down, and his main concern was that he wanted a cigarette.
Sightings rode along with police in Pomona, California during one recent full moon.
This city's pretty weird as it is. I've never really, consciously thought about it. I'm sure there's probably been one or two nights where the city was jumping, and if I would have looked up, it probably would have been full.
Some nights you'll get 5 or 6 what we call 5150s, people walking in traffic, talking to street lights, barking like
Talking
dogs.
to street
People who
lights.
supposedly transform into animals are nothing new. They're just the modern chapter
People
in
are
an
tearing
age-old
the
belief
faces
in the
off of
moon's ability to
statues.
bring out the beast within humankind. More than 1,000 years ago, moon rituals would transform participants into what we now call werewolves.
They would do this by either drinking a concoction of herbs.
Well, she's not going to get pinched
They
on
would very
St.
often
Patrick's Day.
bind
is she?
their waist with a pelt of wolf skin. They would light a fire and urinate in a circle around it.
What?
And there was a chant where they actually asked the wolf spirit to
We
enter
once
into their
witnessed
body
a
and
woman
take over
pouring
their soul.
prescription medications in a
Preferably
circle on the
just
Las
after full
Vegas
moon.
sidewalk.
When the moon was at its zenith.
But did the moon cause their transformation, or simply illuminate it?
The connection of the werewolf to the full moon probably begins with just the notion that wolves
This guy's
and
got to be a
coyotes
fake, man,
howl
like
at the moon.
a character.
That linked up with the idea that the moon
He
is
looks like he
always
would
changing, and
do
it
that, those
seems
old like
a
black and white
supernatural
boxing
transformation to
pictures.
traditional
That's what
people.
this guy
And
reminds
so
me
that
of.
can create the notion that something like a wolf could change
He looks
into
like
a
he
man
would have
or
fought
vice
people
versa.
on the docks
Forensic
in
scientist
Ireland or
and
something.
crime historian E.J. Wagner documents the link between the moon and its reported gruesome effects on people.
There was a 14-year-old boy named Jean Grenet who confessed to being a werewolf and said he'd attacked and killed several children, and they incarcerated him in a monastery for the rest of his life. And he spent the rest of his life groveling on all fours, would eat only raw meat, which he tore apart.
There's no close correlation between the phase of the moon
Look at this
and human
tie,
behavior.
fantastic.
People often think that there must be because the moon makes the tides. That's water, and of course human beings are 80% water. But tidal forces on human beings are much less than on the Earth. In fact, a book I have in my hand would exert more tidal force than the moon ever would.
Show us the book.
Consider these unsettling acts conducted during a full moon. An AP Wire story on April 11th, 1982, reports 12 murders in 12 hours. A man in England insists that the full moon drove him to commit gruesome crimes. And the list goes on.
Steve Buscemi.
There has yet to be a single comprehensive scientific study on the lunar effect on human
Cuban
beings.
Missile Crisis,
But
Lunar
anecdotal
Gambit.
evidence is pervasive,
Sounds like something
pointing
Dalmatian
to a
dog
rise
would
in
fixate
suicide,
on.
crime, arson, earthquakes, and other earth changes. In Miami, Florida, Jeff Warren Hyman studies
Moonscope.
lunar cycles and charts their effects. His newsletter uses this data to predict high and low points for each month.
If you're looking for the explosive period, it's one day after the full moon, the eve of the full moon to one day after, and about 5 days before new moon through one day after new moon. This is where you really see this is where they go to town.
Should we start tracking
There are
that
only
on the people that we
anecdotes
watch and see how they
theories for now.
behave around the full
But as
moon?
Nobel Prize winner Robert Millikan has said, if man is not affected in some way by the planets sun and moon, he is the only thing on Earth that isn't.
Next on Sightings, a mysterious ability succeeds where science fails.
I don't
Hunting
know many
accidents?
well-drillers nowadays that don't use a witcher. Before I did, now I don't.
Well, I thought this was going to be some hot fairy
When
type
astronomers
chicks
look for the shape
in
of the
like a
universe,
nice,
they use radio
you know,
telescopes.
spring
when
or
geneticists
something.
look deep inside DNA, they use
Live stream from
supercomputers.
monocles.
And when drilling engineers
I don't know,
look for
dude. They're
water,
kind
they
of,
also call in someone special.
I was thinking about doing maybe streaming from Wendy's when I get the Taki fries. I feel like that would be good. I don't know. Some of the monocles is kind of like a I don't know. They're kind of they're like a little stricter on shit.
Someone who uses something like this.
Godfather's is at a gas station. I'd have to eat it in the parking lot.
There's no way in the world that you can explain it, except that it's something mysterious.
Yeah, that's true. Distinction.
And it's wonderful.
These whatever is really the only
is the search for life. And
like
dowsing,
reliable
our most
one
ancient
for
method
content.
of finding water, is still in constant use today. Scientists have yet to
This
invent
guy
an instrument
sucks.
that can locate water more accurately.
I'm
than
bitter
forked
that
stick
about the
depicted
witches.
In this 16th century woodcut.
Daninsky warned me. I wish Daninsky had told me in my 20s that there was no such thing as a water witch.
Many dowsers,
You're
also
holding
called
you're
water
holding
witches,
a stick.
believe that the divining rod itself
You're not
is
a
powerful,
witch.
but that it acts as an indicator of the psychic
Used to play
power
Mortal
within
Kombat at
each
Godfather's
individual
Pizza.
dowser.
I think of all the psychic abilities.
I mean, I could take my
Telepathy,
stand thing that I take out, my
But the
selfie stick
source
that
of their
turns
ability
into
is
a
as individual
tripod,
as each water
and
witch.
film in the
In northern
Godfather's
Georgia,
parking
Bob
lot.
Slack has dowsed successfully for over 17
Even if they
years.
like
Most dowsers
forced me to
believe
leave,
they
I
have
could
guardian
eat a
angels
couple
or guides
slices.
that
I
help
think.
them get this information. And I figured the guys
Yeah, I thought
get
there'd be
this
some like,
message to my
you know,
subconscious, and the subconscious
I thought it was going to be
takes
a
over
tasteful,
so that, the pendulum or
erotic
the
witch
rods
segment. Yes.
react as they do.
Bob uses L-shaped rods made of bronze and copper that he believes will turn and twist in his hands in the presence
Crypto
of
boy.
water.
When the rods cross, like so, that's a yes
When the
answer.
rods cross.
And if they don't cross when you ask a question, the answer is no. There's one vein that's flowing off to my right. Right there we are.
After locating what he believes is a water source, Bob uses a pendulum to divine how deep the engineer should drill.
Is it more than 100 feet? No. 90? 80? 70? 60?
To me, it's kind of like dominoes. It depends on who's making it. It's very unpredictable. There is actually a non-gas station one, but it's I would never trust them at this point. They're out of the circle of trust. But if it's well made, it can be really good. But when it's bad, even if it's not like at its best, it's not any good at all. It's a huge fall off.
Watched as Bob placed a marker on the spot where his divining rods had indicated
Yeah,
water
Godfather's
would
has
be
been
found.
around
Then
forever.
we drilled.
I don't believe 100% in them, but I don't disbelieve in them.
But Jack Byers became a believer when he hit water, exactly where the water witch said he would. Skeptics argue that if you drill deep enough, you can find water anywhere, with or without dowsing. But drillers here in the Great Western Desert haven't found that to be true. Dry holes mean empty
They used to have a really good like lunch
Water
buffet. It
witching
was amazing.
is very practical, especially in this country.
I just got depressed to
if
realize
you
that
drill a
doesn't
dry
exist
hole,
anymore. It's good to see John McCain out though.
You know, you're looking at $5,000 to $10,000
Hunt Brothers
plus
is good.
dollars.
I don't think I
didn't
know
what
that
a
one.
water witch was, and yet I knew it worked for me. And people would ask me, and I say, I have no idea how.
I think they would let me
just
film
know that it
inside
works.
of Papa
When
Murphy's
they
here
drill well,
because
there's
but
water
all
there.
they do is just put
In
the
40 years
toppings
of
on. But
dowsing,
maybe they'd let me come
Eldon
behind the
Schmutz
counter and
claims
put
he's
my own
only
toppings
missed
on.
3 times. A simple willow branch in his hand succeeds where geology maps fail. Even the state of Utah has come to trust his
Daninsky.
stunning dowsing powers.
If I'm holding that stick really tight, it'll go.
Don't
in
give
my
it the
hand
death
as it
grip,
goes
brother.
down, the bark of the willow against the flesh of my hand.
Once Schmutz chooses a drilling site, he uses a coil of baling wire to determine the depth at which water can be found.
286 is the next.
Only in gas stations. I'll
right
keep an
now.
eye out, see if I see it anywhere at any of the ones here.
I started writing down these depths, and it really amazed me. He's only a foot or two off. And he tells me
The Little
before
Caesars people
I,
would definitely let me film
I
there, but
drill.
there's nowhere to eat. There's nowhere to
Schmutz
sit
believes
down.
his is a physical power, rather
Although it's
than a
right
psychic
across the
gift.
street from a
Everybody
museum
has
and a
an
pool
aura
hall.
or an electrical field or a magnetic field about them.
Bro, I'm not giving nobody
And
no
there's
weed,
no two
man.
that are alike, just like there's no two fingerprints that are alike. And those persons who have a strong.
Listen, the budget on the IRL streams has to be rock bottom.
aura are the one that water witching works for. You hold it as tight as you can. You're a water
He is a bullshit artist.
I don't know of any well drillers nowadays that don't use a witcher. It's just a natural.
I mean, if it's a place that's got somewhere where you can sit down and it looks like they're not busy, I feel like I could talk my way into most places as long as it's not like one of the places that's known for having like shit management. But the places that I really like, that I really know the people well at, like they don't have any, there's nowhere to sit down and eat.
Thing now. I don't even question it anymore. Before I did, now I don't.
Bring my own fold-out table and chairs.
Even us old guys get our
I could.
education.
Yeah, I think I've told this story before, but when I was a kid, we used to get Godfathers like every Friday, and whenever we would pull up to like the window where you would like, I don't know, for some reason we didn't order over the phone. We would just go there and then sit in the drive-thru for the like 15 minutes while they made the pizza. But whenever you could see back into the kitchen if they left the door open through like the pull-up window, like you could, they'd always have like a joint burning on the table, and then like people would everybody would come by and hit it, and it always like make my dad mad. He was concerned it would affect the quality of the pizza.
Yeah, that's great. Just like that.
What's he need this water for?
The American Society of Dowsers has 3,500 members in all 50 states. The roster of clients includes some of the biggest names in drilling and construction, including many large oil companies. But when we queried these companies about their use of dowsing, they refused to comment publicly.
Some great pictures of him too.
If you've had a paranormal experience, call the Sightings hotline at 1-900-933-SIGHT. That's 1-900-933-7444. Each call 65 cents a minute. Average call lasts 3 minutes. Sightings is also online. Our email address is sightings@aol.com.
Sorry.
Until next time, remember, no mystery is closed to an open mind. For Sightings, I'm Tim White.
Get Crack, have you been gone? Did you see that Ben's agreed to the interview? Okay, this one I'm really excited for. This one has the very timely, the Iranian UFO. We're going back to the Sally house again. Oh my God, Shakey's Pizza. Oh my God, I loved Shakey's Pizza. It had that like gritty crust at the on the bottom, but it was like really good. And Gift of Life.
Of Sightings. 20 years ago, the Iranian Air Force went to war with an extraterrestrial enemy.
I was
Shakey's Pizza. Oh, dude, man.
Shoot it down. And I heard nothing from the pilots, so I was so scared.
Man, back in the day, back in like the Attitude Era, you could take a chick to Shakey's and like that'd be enough, pretty much, like to seal the deal.
Exclusive reveals that the United States government may have helped cover up.
Yeah, Ben is on board.
An update to our Heartland ghost investigation continues.
He's going to try to attack me. I won't tolerate
Jerome Powell talking to Congress.
Renowned psychic Peter James.
Oh my God, look who's back. South to west. Come on, man.
There's a serial murderer stalking the Nevada desert. And
Pizza Hut, Domino's, and Little Caesars.
Track the killer.
He does pose as either a security guard or a policeman. He does not pose as the trucker that he may be.
Plus, a miraculous...
We have monocles in the Midwest that's I think is good if you like thin crust pizza, but it's very expensive comparatively, and it's also like I would say 75% of the time you get a good pizza. So it's a little higher risk than I would like.
Story of animals healing humans.
When he saw the animal, it was just like totally different. It was like tears
Rate
of joy.
my takeaway. I think I've seen that in my feed. I'll double check though, but I think I've never watched them, but I'll have to check it out. Man, Shakey's was awesome, dude. And even if like the chick was a bitch, like it's like Shakey's, man. It's like really good pizza.
Welcome to Sightings. I'm Tim White. Now, Sightings goes inside Iran and uncovers the truth about a mass UFO encounter
my God,
in
Bob
1976. You will hear from an Imperial Iranian Air Force general, a pilot, and an air traffic controller who have remained silent for more than 15 years. And you will actually see those people play
UFO
themselves
confrontation,
in a unique documentary.
Iran.
At the beginning, we thought the Iraqi are coming.
All of a sudden, I see this flying object just going round and round and round and going up
Shaida
and up and up.
Kashani.
And I told my mom, I said, Mom, I just saw a flying saucer. I saw a UFO.
I was going to prepare myself to shoot it down.
Bruno
It
Sammartino.
was seen by civilians, pilots, generals, and the unerring eye of Air Force radar. Reports ricocheted from the Shah to President Ford and back again.
Is John Galt going to get
Watcher
involved on
recreates the
any
day's
kind of high
events,
level of
but the
politics?
actual military personnel who witnessed the most compelling UFO encounter Sightings has ever investigated. This film, seen here for the first time outside of Iran, was produced by the government and, in a bizarre twist of fate, would one day be used by the Ayatollah Khomeini to discredit the Shah.
When I saw this object is flying that fast, then I thought this is not a helicopter and this is not an aircraft. By that time I said, oh, should be some kind of UFO.
Radar readings taken inside the control tower at Mehrabad Air Force Base indicated the object was at least as large as a Boeing 707 tanker. The situation was serious. Brigadier General Nader Yousefi, base operations commander and the number 3 man in the Iranian Air Force, was notified immediately.
So I picked up the phone, and it was a base commander. He wanted me to know they're going to have the airplanes to take off from his base for the
Airplanes take off from
mission.
space.
General Yousefi authorized an immediate scramble mission. An Iranian Air Force F-4 Phantom jet fighter was ordered to engage the UFO and determine what it was. The F-4 approached Mach 1 in its pursuit of the UFO. At an altitude of 23,000 feet, the lead pilot reported in that he clearly saw a brilliant object 75 miles ahead of him. His actual radio transmissions are heard here publicly for the first time outside Iran.
I'm approaching the flying object. What is this brilliant object? Why do you make these allegations? Fuck your mother. Fuck's Ben. Fuck's Grace. Fuck's all of you people.
The F-4 was closing fast, but when the pilot got within 10 miles of the UFO, all onboard instruments failed. The F-4 retreated and then came in for a second pass. Again, the instruments failed.
It's so frightening. Man, listen to the background.
It was as if an electromagnetic force field was repelling the jet fighter. The pilots never got closer than 7 miles before they were forced to retreat.
It may suggest a deliberate kind of control mechanism, perhaps from the phenomenon to the airplane system itself, such that when the airplane is no longer a threat, it can change the radiation or whatever the energy is, whatever the effect is, and so that the systems on board the airplane come back to normal.
I put down my phone and I run to my balcony to see if I can see that object. I saw a big star among the other stars, which it was at least twice as large as the normal stars. I asked the tower what happened, and he said he lost the communication again.
General Yousefi ordered a second F-4 to engage the UFO. The lead pilot was Iran's #1 Top Gun, Major Hussein Jafari.
Is any of this footage real footage? They need to tell us.
It was around 12 miles. We lost communication, and I heard nothing from the pilots. So I was so scared what's going to happen and what happened to the pilots.
When the F-4 retreated, communication was inexplicably restored.
So I asked from the tower controller to tell them to continue their mission and see if they can get more information from the flying object.
Then Major Joffrey nervously reported that a smaller UFO
Like, if
had
this is
emerged
fake
from the
footage, I
larger
want to
one
see this
and was trying to
Iranian
engage
UFO
him.
movie.
And it was coming toward them. They tried to shoot him down. When they squeezed the trigger, it didn't work. And the trigger was inoperative. They couldn't shoot the missiles.
The pilots, fearing for their lives, tried to eject, but the eject button jammed. Every backup system was inoperable.
We
Locked up their
understood that
controls.
The eject instrument also didn't work. So, in this case, I said to God, oh, God, save them.
The F-4 had no choice
Good
to
plan.
go into a negative G-force dive to escape this seemingly hostile UFO. When the fighter jet was 10 miles away from the larger UFO, the smaller craft flew off, and all onboard communication and instrumentation was restored to the F-4. Major Joffrey reported that the smaller UFO appeared to be landing on a mountaintop just southeast of Tehran. This landing was confirmed on the radar.
Have
by the
any
control
lolcow
tower.
reject
Brigadier General
streams been
Yusufi
taken down
witnessed it from
besides
his
the ones
balcony.
we knew about? Have
He
any of the
went
Minar
down
ones
and
actually been
landed
taken down?
Underground.
Or just
And
reported?
now it is a communication between the mother ship
Oh, look at that.
and that small flying object. And it shows the lights between those two. It's connected. While they were landing, the tower was screaming on the phone to me, General, this flying object is following them and is going to land in Mehrabad. It is in the short final, and I see a big light with the glaring red, blue, and yellow lights.
The so-called mothership tailed the F-4 into Mehrabad Air Force Base and flew low over the runway. As it performed what was described as a low-altitude flyby, power at the Air Force Base went out.
That was strange for us, and we asked each other why the power went out for some seconds.
Frankly, I don't have any explanation for that, but I will say that there are other cases, well documented, where power has been disrupted on the ground over fairly large areas during UFO presence.
After the flyby, the craft roared off toward the west, as if to say, mission accomplished. Search parties were dispatched to the supposed landing site of the smaller UFO, while the tower tried to track the outbound mothership. It was spotted 25 minutes later over the Mediterranean by an Egyptian Air Force pilot. A report Sightings was able to confirm with the Egyptian embassy. Then, over Lisbon, Portugal, the pilot, crew, and passengers of a KLM Airlines flight reported seeing the UFO as it sped westward to the Atlantic. That was the last sighting we know of to date.
When Sightings continues, part 2 of our UFO investigation, a cover-up went to the highest levels of the Iranian government.
Oh, now we're going to get the cover-up. Okay.
Knew everything.
The American people deserve to know what happened.
When the pilots who had encountered a UFO over Tehran returned home, their ordeal was only beginning. They were shocked to see how their UFO confrontation was being distorted and trivialized by a military-controlled press.
We knew the capability of the other countries and their airplanes' capabilities. It could be a spy airplane. I really have no idea, but maybe from some other world.
The day after the otherworldly encounter over Tehran, it was front-page news in both the Farsi and English-speaking newspapers throughout Iran. At the same time, Iranian and U.S. officials were meeting behind closed doors.
This particular case is interesting from another standpoint, and that is the involvement of the American government.
General Sabahat, now in exile in California, was the vice commander of the 2nd Tactical Fighter Base. He told Sightings that the day after the UFO event, he attended a top-secret meeting between the Imperial Iranian Air Force and the U.S. Air Force.
Do you think this is a good time for me to try to locate a copy of a top-secret Iranian UFO handbook?
Probably commander,
Richard
commanding officer, and operation, pilots, approach, control of civil aviation.
Hussein Parouzi, an air traffic
Did
controller
you guys see the clip of Minar that
was also
ZXV
present
has
at
of him
that
like
meeting.
digging in his ass and then rubbing his hand all over his face?
hear
Even Truth Seeker
our
knows,
report,
was like
and the
that
report
was
of the
way
pilot,
too big of a sniff.
They concluded that no country is able to have such a technology, and all of them believed it should be a strange object from other spheres.
Dabney
I collected the reports and I made my own observations as a report to my higher echelon, and we sent this report through the Joint Chiefs of Staff to the Shah's intention.
They collect all of those information and send it to the United States by General Sikor.
Beautiful background.
Because he was the head of the U.S. Air Force in our countries.
The secret meetings continued, and rumors of a calculated disinformation program
As
seemed
of
to be
his
borne
ass.
out
That
by
was
the changing
crazy.
face of Tehran newspaper headlines. Day one.
Grace was like, it's got to be clickbait. And that's what I was thinking too. I was like, it's got to be clickbait. I was like, nope, definitely not clickbait.
Day 2. Day 3. Day 4. On day 5, the press reports the entire
Or was it a
incident
flying
is
chicken?
a hoax.
I don't know why the appropriate authority prohibited me
goblin.
to
You
interview
shit
with the
smear.
press or news reporter.
You no good,
I don't
you
know why
shit
this
smear.
information is prohibited
Poop face.
from the public.
Cow eating pig worshiper.
Somehow the government doesn't want to open up to the public. I don't know why, but...
Despite media dismissals of the event as a joke, our sources report that a full-scale military investigation continued to search for answers.
Is there still going to be an episode of Kings tonight?
F4 to go and to look after that flying object. He knew where it landed. And when they flew and the army personnel, they were in the area, they couldn't see anything.
The general who headed that search still lives in Tehran and denied repeated requests for an interview. But others who were present told Sightings that no physical evidence of a UFO was found on the mountaintop where so many had reported seeing a small craft landing.
You are gay. I will
However,
do push-up
for the
to
first
show
3
you.
days after the incident, there were serious electronic
Cormax
anomalies
or
in the
dirty
area.
man.
The beeping sound that was picked up could be one of a number of things. It might be technology. In fact, depending on the frequency stability and interfrequency pulse and other factors like that, it very likely is a technology of some sort, as opposed to a natural phenomenon.
And then there is this. An American Defense Systems Program satellite operated by the U.S. Defense Department
Willie
picked up
Tanner,
signals
yeah.
from an
I love Alf.
unidentifiable
Oh my God.
technology
Alf is such a
on the
great
same
show.
night the Iranian Air Force was scrambling over Tehran. Experts from DSP are revealing this information for the first time.
We saw something.
The DSP satellite is, in fact, a spy satellite that monitors airspace in military hotspots. On the night of September 19, 1976, the satellite was scanning the skies over Tehran.
That's an independent confirmation that an event of some type occurred at that time and place. What it was, we don't know.
Sightings asked the experts to explain the meaning of 238 scans, possible SR, but they told us that
What's
information was top
SR?
secret.
Possible SR.
Right now, all we can do is say, yes, there was something there.
Certain agencies, including the CIA, have gone on record as having
This is the
information on this
teacher from
particular
Boy Meets
case.
World.
In fact,
Mr.
Sightings has
Feeney.
obtained these documents from the United States Air Force Security Service that confirm our government's involvement in the UFO investigation. And, according to this Washington Post article, the investigation was still in full force as late as 1979.
Now, what does that say? It says that somebody thought this case was very, very important when it happened. Why, after this many years, that's
What
still
were
important,
those objects? It sounds
I
like
think is a
South to
fundamental
West
question.
talking about Courtney.
And the American
that
people
woman.
deserve to know what happened.
Dr.
Two
Richard
Alf
Haynes
dolls? I love
continues
Alf.
to investigate pilot UFO confrontations
Such a
as
weird
part of his
show.
own Project Delta. For the past 30 years, Dr. Haynes has interviewed more than 100 civilian and military pilots who claim to have encountered UFOs.
Next, there's a serial killer in the Nevada desert.
He does pose as either a security guard or a policeman.
She's seen
Ooh,
the
a
crime
serial
in her
killer
mind's eye,
case,
and the
nice.
police are listening.
There's a serial killer on the loose somewhere in the West. There have been 6, maybe even 7 victims already. No one knows where or when the killer will strike again, but sheriffs in Utah, Nevada, and Wyoming don't want to wait until another young
There
woman
may be a
dies
snag.
before
How
they
come?
find out. They have agreed to our request to let psychic detective Dorothy Allison in on the case. In desolate Elko County, Nevada, 2 rock collectors found her body. At the time, no one knew that she was just one of many, or that it would take a psychic to name her killer.
Well, I was notified on November.
Well, that's up to, I mean, that's on Ben's gonna have to set those boundaries. You know what I mean? Because I don't have any pre-knowledge of what's fair game and what's not. Maybe that'll come up.
16th, 1993, that we had a body.
He's used to walking on eggshells.
Interstate 80, about 23 miles west of the Utah state line. When we got out there, we found a white female, unidentified, completely stripped of all her clothing, jewelry, and had been killed by a gunshot.
An enhanced sketch of the victim was released in the hope that a loved one would come forward to claim her. No one did.
Damn.
It's very sad. I have a teenage daughter right now, and I would hate for her, something like this to happen to her, and she'd be just sitting somewhere.
Gosh, I hope so. I hope you
knowing
would
who she is.
Hate for that to happen to her.
The town of Elko adopted the unknown victim as one of their own. A local mortuary sponsored a funeral for the young woman nobody knew.
This young lady had to be somebody's daughter, maybe
Bob
somebody's
Burns.
wife, somebody's mother. She was due some dignity and respect. The way she died was not very pleasant, and we just couldn't, in good conscience, just take her out and bury her without having some type of a funeral service.
Elko could only mourn and wonder why. The victim was buried just as she had been discovered, alone and anonymous. With few clues to go on,
yeah, I mean, that's kind of none of our business. I mean, we just ask our questions, and Ben says what he wants to say. If Ben says, you know, more than he should, I mean, that's not...
and Juab counties in Utah
We're not here to step on
They both had
anyone's
unsolved
rights.
murders strikingly similar to the one in Elko.
Except maybe
I'll show you
Grace's.
where our girl was found.
They faced the chilling reality that a killer was on the loose. When all of the investigating detectives met to go over their individual cases, a pattern developed, instantly linking all of the
Should
murders.
Ben welcome
All
me
of
to the
victims
interview
were
like he
young
would
women,
welcome a
shot
customer
with
to
a
the
small
restaurant?
caliber
Like,
weapon
so we
and
can get a
stripped
feel for
naked.
how he welcomed
Strangely,
his
their
customers?
corpses weren't haphazardly dumped. They were placed.
The scenes are almost identical. The way their hair was pulled up underneath them, the way their heads were turned, the way their hands were laid out in a particular fashion, the way their feet were laid out in a particular fashion.
We feel very strongly that the bodies were in fact posed.
Bill
that
Tompkins.
there are some things that are not natural with the way the bodies were positioned.
In all, 7 victims in Nevada, Utah,
Great
and Wyoming
episode for
have
different
now been
kinds of
identified
ties.
as murders that could fit the pattern.
We have a serial killer, we believe, out there that is going to strike again.
A killer who has an uncanny knack for finding victims nobody knows and nobody misses.
It's very frustrating. You start wondering, you know, what else can you do?
We heard
What
he
can you
found
do?
all of his victims.
With anonymous victims
in the
and
Voight.
few leads, the detectives accepted Sightings' offer of help. We brought in Dorothy Allison. This
Trucker, yeah, that
69-year-old
makes
New
sense.
Jersey housewife is also a psychic detective who has worked with the
I don't
FBI
immediately
and local
think
law
John
enforcement
Galt is a
agencies
serial
on
killer,
over
though.
4,000 murder
I
cases.
did come to that
For
conclusion,
Dorothy,
but it was
the
after
first
a lot
order
of
business
research.
was
I
to
didn't
go to
jump
the site
right
where the
into
body
it.
of Elko's Jane Doe was discovered.
The minute that I get near
Yeah,
the
yeah, they're
scene,
going to be picking up
it seems like the
hitchhikers,
blood
lot
is rushing
lizards.
through my body and saying to me, "This is what happened to this girl. This is who did it to her. This is what he looks like." Things that can help the police out.
Her first impressions
Summon
at the
me
site
like a
were about
mythical
the killer
being.
himself. She envisioned the victim's last
know how that would
terrifying
work.
moments alone with him.
He does pose as either a security guard or a policeman. He does not pose as a trucker that he may be. That's what is so shocking to the girls, because they think they were
Oh,
the
he's
police
he isn't a
officer,
John
and they
Galt
don't
isn't a
expect this
trucker.
to happen. They
I thought
more or
John
less in
Galt
the
was
state
the
of
truck
shock when he
driving
starts
landlord.
attacking them.
At first, the detectives were skeptical and merely listened politely. But
I swear to God, get crack. I thought him and that other guy were they were like simultaneously trucking and talking to each other.
Dorothy quickly gained their undivided attention when she made a series of remarkably accurate statements no one outside of the investigation could know.
I was told this girl was shot, and that was all I was told. But I got a feeling about the throat. There's something wrong with the throat, whatever that may be. I don't know. Maybe the police could, you know, sort of let me know what I feel about that throat.
Well, the only problem I have with that is that has never been released, and I, you know, I mean, that's a lead for us, and there was something was done on the throat.
That's all we have.
I mean, I don't mind.
Her accuracy made the detectives
Free
uneasy,
healthcare for lot
but
lizards.
it also heightened their interest in Dorothy's
Absolutely.
psychic vision of the killer.
I feel that this man stays mostly in the area of Utah and Nevada, although he's been to Portland.
I appear in a puff of
place
weed
that's
smoke.
called Castle Rock or something like that.
You said something about Castle Rock,
Yes,
Castledale.
something with castle in it. Any name that has castle in it, he hangs there.
Yeah,
Detective
that's what I thought it
Kimball
was. I thought it was like a gang
Dorothy
of truck
pinpointed two
drivers.
locations crucial to the victim in his case.
The place she was found is on I-70, out of Castledale. As I understand it, she was last seen when they did ID her in Portland, Oregon.
Strong stance
Dorothy
from
spent more than
Mr.
2
Clean.
hours at the site, writing down the flood of impressions she was
It's
receiving
not going to
about
be
the
easy to
murderer.
bowl him
He
over.
sometimes travels with a dog in the car. He likes dogs.
Do you see? I mean, is it
Nice
anything about
dogs.
any oddities about the animals that you see?
You mean like one leg off or something?
Yeah. We're looking for somebody in a vehicle with a three-legged, what we believe is possibly a Rottweiler. The vehicle was also seen up in this area at about the time of the discovery of this body.
Dorothy spent another hour giving the detectives additional clues about the murderer and his possible whereabouts.
I believe that he's doing something with checks, some kind of fraud, some kind of robbery from the bank. So, since I gave you names, you can check that out.
The detectives have asked us not to broadcast those names and many other details provided by Dorothy until they can investigate. Back at the Elko County Sheriff's Office, police sketch artist Janelle Lambert was called in
Convoy,
to
there we
create
go.
a composite of the killer.
John
based on
Galt got a
Dorothy's
great big
visions and feelings.
convoy.
So is that long enough right
I thought he was a truck
When
driver
the
for
drawing
sure. I
was
thought he was a
finished,
truck driving.
Detective Cole
Hold
entered
on,
the room
let me
and was
understand this
visibly
crap.
shaken.
You're telling me that John Galt is not a foundational black truck driving landlord? That's for sure what I thought his thing was.
All right, when we were looking for an individual in a station wagon, that we had a witness here in Elko who had seen this individual. We had taken that individual down to a small police department here within the county who has a forensic police artist and asked him to get a composite of that person. That person drawn is very, very similar in description as that individual right there.
Lot
That's the guy we're
lizards
looking
are
for
like
with the dog.
professional rats,
The
kind
individual
of.
with the dog.
They're taking
We
care
asked
of
the
the
once skeptical detectives
emotional
to
needs
evaluate
of
their
people.
first experience working with a psychic detective.
To say the least, I think saying I was skeptical is putting it mildly, but Dorothy told us some things today, things that came to
Just
her
smoking, drinking, and
somewhat take me
slumlording.
back,
All right,
and that's
fair.
to put that mildly.
There were some things that she had said while we were out at the
How does he feel about realtors?
That, has never been public or made public.
Things that were only known by the four of us and or people within our own agency or sheriffs.
She gave some names and some businesses and stuff, and that I think really need to be followed up on.
While the detectives follow up on Dorothy's leads, she continues to provide them with new clues. And for the brutal killer,
We
she
watched
has
a Lot
warning.
Lizard
For the killer, I
documentary
leave
on
you with this
Twitch one
message
time.
that I will never give up the rest of my life until you are found. I will help the police in every way I know how, and I'm going to come after you until I get you.
Twitch is just
Dorothy
so much
Allison
more freedom
has
with
provided a
content,
number
like
of
it's
leads
crazy.
to Utah
Unless
and Nevada
it's like
authorities. Among them, a few clues that are so
conspiracy theory
important, police
stuff. They
have
don't
asked
like
us not
that.
to reveal them in our story. But they have allowed us to release
But we had an
this
entire
composite
episode
sketch
dedicated
of
to
the
lot
man Dorothy
lizards.
Allison believes is a killer. If you have any information about this case, please contact the Elko County, Nevada
Your backyard
Sheriff's
is a
Office.
truck yard.
Next, there is a violent entity in this house.
MC.
Psychic Peter James makes contact when Sightings continues.
Father, daughter, and then maybe they could get on that reality show where
For
people
several
bid on the
months,
crazy
Sightings has been
jobs.
investigating a stunning
Like moving the
paranormal
world's
event
largest
unfolding in America's
popsicle.
heartland. A young family is
Stuff
being
like
plagued
that.
by ghostly activity that ranges from the innocuous
What a
to the
disaster.
bizarre.
Asking the
And it
Thorpes
won't
to
go
be
away.
somewhere like on
We
time
called in renowned psychic
consistently.
Peter
No
James
way.
to see if he could communicate with the entity and make the haunting activity stop. Psychic Peter James says he
Oh,
has
here we
had the
go.
ability to communicate with ghosts since he was a child. Today, Peter continues to develop his power to speak with and even see what he believes are the spirits of the dead.
Well, the first thing I look for is to visually see if there are any ghosts that roam the area. And if they're there,
Send the
then,
Thorpes to be
they
ice road
generally
truckers?
Make it known or make their presence known.
Grace, it'll be
And
fine.
these
It'll be
entities
fine.
do communicate with me.
Now, Sightings has brought Peter James into America's heartland
Stop being
to investigate
hysterical.
haunting activity we've been following for several months. Peter James never saw any videotape. He knew nothing specific about the haunting or its gruesome effects. The identity of the family was not disclosed to Peter. The husband
Remember
is also asked to have
remember
his
this whole
identity
thing?
hidden on our tapes. A Sightings video crew accompanied Peter to the family's 100-year-old house. Before he even stepped inside, Peter saw something.
You know what I sense up there?
The Thorpes need a cam dog. They need somebody who sees their inherent value and is willing to overlook their eccentricities.
I got just a glimpse of that upper
As the
window
truck falls into
of the face
an Arctic
of a
abyss.
little girl, and I don't know who lives here. It's a boy, right? But I saw the face of a little girl in that window just now.
Don't they film Deadly as
little girl
Catch up
is
there?
precisely what the
Oh,
husband described
OPC Don,
seeing
I think,
months
is part of that
before.
crew.
I walked over to the kitchen cabinet, opened the cabinet, and got out a glass, poured more orange juice. Started to take a drink, and as I turned around, there was a little girl standing not more than 3 foot away from me, just as plain as you are to me now.
Peter never heard this interview. He never saw the sketch. And he didn't know the family called the spirit Sally.
He wants to come in blind.
There's a little girl that's standing right there. Right at the top of the stairs.
Hello? Hello?
Look.
Hello?
Oh boy.
Can you speak to me? Sally? Is that your name, Sally? Sally? Okay.
The family and our
Oh,
Sightings
boy. Can you
investigative
imagine
team
this guy?
were amazed that Peter James had correctly named the entity. But even more startling was an interview that Sightings conducted later that same day. A former resident of the house revealed that she had also heard about someone named Sally, but at the time she thought it was just a figment of her daughter's imagination.
I lived here about 3 years
This
ago
liar.
with my 3 children, and we lived here for about 8 months. And the whole time we lived here, my
This guy's making a
daughter was 5
fortune
at the time.
off
She had an
of
imaginary friend named Sally.
Sightings.
I'd scold Heather. I would scold her for something, and she would
Somebody's
come back and tell
paying
me,
him to
"I didn't
travel
do
to
that.
these
Sally did
places.
it."
He's got to
But Sally
eat. He
told me
needs
to
a
do
per
it.
diem. He's
But the
making
former
bank,
tenants'
brother.
encounters with Sally were harmless compared to what happened when this family moved in.
I can tell that
Uh-oh, here we go.
You're losing your breath right now.
Without warning, scratches on the husband's body would begin to welt and bleed as our cameras rolled.
Oh, I remember this
The mission
nonsense.
on this visit was to give Peter James a chance to try to communicate with whoever or whatever was plaguing the family. Would he succeed where parapsychologists had failed?
I'm getting a lot of resistance right here at the door, meaning whatever is in the room wants me out. Speak to me.
And he got
Peter
a
had
Rico.
no prior knowledge about the scratching and bleeding phenomena attributed to Sally. So when the husband began to panic during this session, Peter thought it was just nerves.
Really, just now?
When you said speak to me now,
Yeah.
he felt the cold
Yeah.
fly past him. And he's
And she scratched you?
There, my back's been stinging.
Are you okay?
Yeah, I just
Don't be frightened. There's nothing to be afraid of. Remember, you're in control here. So don't.
MC.
Ooh.
I heard that electrical shock.
Yes. Let me just right here, right in my hand. Did you hear that? Get right in my hand. It hit me right there. Hello.
Yeah.
Easy. I'm not afraid of you.
Our cameras captured it, however. The negative was
Was
destroyed.
the electrical shock a form of communication? And was the MC a cryptic message from a tortured spirit?
McDonald's.
Peter James believes that the initials are evidence of more than one ghost in this house.
I do feel, as we speak, that over the years that at least 3 people died in this house. She tells me that there was something with her lungs, with her breathing, and also that she hurt her foot or her
Sightings searched town records for evidence supporting Peter James's psychic visions.
Donald George.
In the Hall of Records, we found this: the death record of a child named Sally, date of death 1905. We also tried to substantiate this vision.
Do you know if anyone medical lived in this house? There was a medical person? Yeah, because I feel very medical about this for some reason.
Very medical.
In a city directory printed in 1903, Sightings discovered that the person living in the house at the time was indeed a physician. And according to city records, he moved out in 1906, just after the death of Sally.
Jedi Rich vibe.
During our investigation, Peter James was drawn to the graveyard, one of the oldest in the town. It was here that he had a vision of a little girl dying of pneumonia, and the doctor who couldn't save her. As he wandered among the headstones, Peter James described a small voice calling him toward one particular grave. Here, he felt an overwhelming grief. Here, he said, lay Sally. But the marker was so old and weather-worn, the lettering had disappeared. But when Sightings checked the cemetery's records, we discovered that Plot 1, 4th row west, was the final resting place of
He's a habitual liar.
Sally Isabel Hall.
Peter James's visit has helped the family understand a little bit more about what may be causing the haunting in their house. But Peter has not been able to stop the scratching and bleeding and terror that is now part of the family's daily routine. Later in our program, details of
He was able to give them peace of mind, but he was unable to stop the biting, scratching, ripping, and tearing happening.
about a new
Jedi Rich doppelganger? I definitely got to see that.
Next, a mysterious bond between animals and humans is saving lives. Then, an angry spirit leaves a bloody trail when our Heartland Ghost investigation continues.
medical science can work miracles. Advances in laser technology and microsurgery are giving life to people who just 10 years ago might not have made it. But technology isn't a cure-all. For people with severe head injuries, the newest therapy method
OPC
doesn't
Don.
depend on high-tech machinery. It allows the unconditional love of pets to work miracles.
It's a mysterious strength that I don't understand. I wouldn't presume to try to explain, either in my setting as a doctor or in a layman's setting with their own pet at home.
In 2,500 hospitals and rehabilitation centers around the country, animal-assisted therapy is becoming an accepted part of a trauma patient's daily routine. When the program started 15 years ago, doctors and nurses were suspicious. But now, it's hard to argue with the results.
It really confirms what I believe, that there is that special human-animal bond, and if we can link into that and utilize that to promote a patient's progress, it'll be a wonderful thing. That's true.
At the Tyler Rehabilitation Center in Texas, more than 80 dogs and their owners are involved in the animal-assisted therapy program.
Can you open your mouth more when you're talking?
It's like this is not happening, you know, because there was no smiles, no reaction.
Bobby Gossett's vibrant smile and his career as a trucker ended when Bobby had a massive stroke.
There was like nothing. He might like look at you.
Did they say Ronnie Gossett,
space,
the old wrestling
you know,
promoter?
There was nothing there. But then when he saw the animal, it was just like totally different. It's weird. It was like tears of
OPC
joy.
Don and his
That's
turtles.
the best way, because you could see him coming back, that you had nothing before.
This videotape demonstrates the successful bonding that occurs between animal and human during animal-assisted therapy. At first, Bobby Gossett was unresponsive to traditional therapy for stroke patients. But only 20 minutes later, with the help of one dog, Bobby was a changed man. Bobby Gossett is back home now with his wife and his own dogs. The progress he's made has far exceeded his doctor's expectations. The Gossetts give much of the credit to animal-assisted therapy.
We never thought he'd come this far. We had no hopes of it. I wasn't sure that he'd ever walk.
That wasn't what I was
Because
expecting.
he couldn't walk. He couldn't even sit up. when we first started. We had to come a long, long way.
For stroke patients,
That dog ain't moving. He's like,
may
go
have
around
had
me.
problems with speaking. We might have them working on naming body
Great
parts or giving the
aesthetic.
dog commands so that they can practice their speech. Head injury patients, we might work on tracking or focusing as they're coming out of a coma. Spinal cord patients might work on a variety of different balance activities like throwing the ball.
The dogs give me a sense of happiness, and I know that they're working with me
Accidental
as well as me
ASMR.
working with them, and it just makes me feel good.
We thought she'd die.
We did.
We truly thought she would die. We thought she was too sick to get better.
She had so many things stacked against her.
But Kirsten Sender didn't die, despite the fact that she was crushed inside this van, submerged in a muddy creek.
She'd inhaled all that water. She had pneumonia. She had a concussion. She had multiple broken bones.
The woman who strokes this greyhound today entered the center completely paralyzed. The muscles that now throw a ball for a game of fetch were once badly atrophied.
I don't know what's happening.
That's a pretty big turnaround.
I don't think anyone knows specifically what's going on among the neurons in the brain that allow that breakthrough.
Well, I have never really been an emotional man, but I have become one in the last
Rudy
4
Gender.
weeks, 5 weeks. I mean, watching my daughter today flex her fingers was very, very emotional.
Are they still doing their show tonight, Randy? Do you know? Kings? I know they had one scheduled. Manar in a turban in the thumbnail.
Feeling?
The animal volunteers come in every size, shape, and breed. But not every dog is right for the program.
The key is temperament, not training. The dog has to be comfortable with a stranger, manipulating them and touching them and rubbing them and all sorts of things that they do that's going to happen in therapy. We do see how they react to wheelchairs for the first time if they've never seen them. We evaluate how they react with like a pan dropping. How do they react if they're startled?
And like human volunteers, the dogs seem to thrive when they're
That
helping
seems
others.
mean.
When I acquired her, she was absolutely unsocialized. She still has a great deal of energy.
I definitely agree. I think you can, a little like pet time always is like a therapeutic. I think just going down and like feeding the goats for a few minutes is always like super like relaxing too.
But when she worked, she was really into her job. The minute she gets onto the table, you can almost see her little brain click. It's very, very serious business to her.
While science tries to figure out why, the animals continue to restore lives and families.
Her prognosis was dim, and they didn't know that with her injuries, if that she would ever be able to respond to the messages.
Well, that's because we're seeing the results here. Peter Piper, or whatever his name is, he's produced nothing. He's just a complete joke. He's just shouting in random people's homes.
Just that were coming from her brain.
In 1993, Stacy Paul was a high school track star, member of the drill team, a loving
But
daughter.
is
and
there
sister.
still a show
Then
tonight,
there was
though,
a car
Distinction?
crash.
Well, the outlook was bleak. It wasn't good. In fact, they didn't think she'd make it through the initial
see.
night.
And they were in an automobile
Misunderstood.
accident on the way to school, and I say they because her 13-year-old sister was with her, and she was killed instantly in that same accident.
Stacy was in a deep coma. Doctors prepared her parents for the worst and gave them little
Yeah,
hope for the
Kings
best.
Episode 3, The
Even when
Fight
Stacy
for the
came out of her
Crown,
coma, she was
scheduled
unable
for
to
6
walk or
hours.
talk.
Stacy had the whole realm of therapy. When she started going to Sherry in pet therapy, she couldn't even control her head.
She's been bright-eyed all morning.
The progress is so gradual. People think that you wake up and go, oh, I've been in coma. I'm really glad to be here. But it's like an evolution. It's like you evolve from that infantile state again.
At first, Stacy was trapped in a wheelchair, unable to speak. But through a power no
What
one
happened
fully
to fat? What's
understands,
fat? I don't know
this
anything
was
about that.
Stacy less than 6 months
Fat
later.
And now she's, up walking around, and she looks great, and she's got a job, and she's doing wonderfully.
For what we were told originally, the fact
She met a man in a parking lot who told her that she'd be a great
And I'll never
YouTuber,
forget
so
that
she's
feeling
got that
when
going for her.
that last football game when she walked across the football field with the mascots
Well,
on
these
each
people
side,
should
and
have
she got a
dressed
standing
seriously
ovation.
for this. Why'd they come out in these goofy costumes to honor this
kids and
recovered patient?
and then I'm gonna live on a farm.
Paul, daughter of Mike and Linda Paul.
animal therapy works. Is it unconditional love, the touch of soft fur against a frail
He
hand?
turned Minar
Or
against
is it a
Ben in
deeper
Dead
connection
Man's
that
Chant?
heals the spirit first and then the body?
It's intangible at the present time. In the future, as we understand,
Where do I
the
find these
workings of
videos?
the brain and
WTF?
human body,
So this one is on a page called Heidi_TTFN, but it is missing some. If you search Sightings full episodes, there's another playlist that has the ones this one is missing, and then it also has some after this one. But yeah, this is the one that we use for now, is Heidi_TTFN.
more, perhaps we'll figure out some explainable connection.
Stacy Paul continues to improve. Although she has a long way to go, Stacy and her family are filled with hope for the future because she's come so far already, thanks in large part to a friend named Sophie.
Next, our Heartland ghost investigation continues, and a violent spirit tries to communicate.
There is an element of danger here, and we should take it very seriously.
Sought the advice and expertise of the world's leading parapsychologist, Carrie Gaynor.
No problem, WTF.
He analyzed our early field tapes, and now, with the growing incidents in the house, Carrie Gaynor himself is traveling to the site.
We brought in electronic specialists and over $500,000 in monitoring equipment.
Whoa,
that
half
we
a
hope
mil?
might pick up any physical manifestations of paranormal activity.
Man.
Remote-controlled cameras were strategically placed in areas of the home where the presence of an entity had been reported previously by the family and our crew.
Okay, now let's just try to focus.
I wouldn't trust this guy. He looks like Arvid off Ahead of the Class.
Frequency counters and oscilloscopes were set to monitor any electronic interference. A thermal imaging system was brought in to record any measurable changes in temperature. The camera sees only degrees of hot and cold, producing these eerie images showing red where the temperature is higher.
I just wonder if he'll
blue where it
show
is
up,
cooler.
though.
The hope was that this thermal system would provide a visual record of ghostly cold spots. While the monitoring systems were put in place, Carrie Gaynor worked with the family and other eyewitnesses to develop a game plan for his field investigation.
I want to see this $500,000 in equipment. Oh,
cases,
no
and during that
way!
time, I have
No, did you
never
see that
come
guy's
up 20
name?
years I've investigated.
Terry. Oh, no. Oh, no. Where were we at?
20 years ago, the Iranian Air Force went to war.
Oh,
with
no.
an extraterrestrial enemy.
I was going
I'm
to
sorry.
myself to shoot it down, and I heard nothing from the pilots.
And a violent spirit tries to communicate.
There is an element of danger here, and we should take it very seriously.
Sought the advice and expertise of the world's leading parapsychologist, Carrie Gaynor. He
Gaynor.
analyzed our early field tapes, and now, with the growing incidents in the house, Carrie Gaynor himself is traveling to the site.
Yeah, Carrie
We brought in
Gaynor.
electronic specialists and over $500,000 in monitoring equipment that we hoped might pick up
There's
any
no
physical
way that's
manifestations
$500,000.
of paranormal activity. Remote-controlled
Nice-
cameras were
nice
strategically
cord
placed in
management.
areas of the home where the
Oh my
presence of
God.
an entity had been reported previously by the family and our crew.
This is like it got to be an insurance scam.
The front focus.
Frequency counters and oscilloscopes were set to monitor any electronic interference. A thermal imaging system was brought in to record any measurable changes in temperature. The camera sees only degrees of hot and cold, producing these eerie images showing
I do
red
that all
where
the
temperature
time.
is higher,
The buttons are
blue
different
where
on
it
a
is cooler.
playlist.
The hope was that this thermal system would provide a visual record
Looks like a
of
snuff
ghostly
film when
cold
they show
spots.
that guy down there. Predator.
While the monitoring systems were put in place, Carrie Gaynor worked with the family and other eyewitnesses to develop a game plan for his field investigation.
During the last 20 years, I've investigated about 850 cases, and during that time, I have never come
Carrie
across
Gaynor.
anything like this.
So just to be clear, Minar considers himself a Muslim alpha male, and he takes his orders from Ava. That's interesting.
Sightings monitored every part
He
of the
takes
house
his marching
for 24
orders from a
consecutive
woman.
hours, while Carrie Gaynor kept vigil with the family by candlelight. And still, the entity was not deterred.
During that time, I witnessed 11 separate attacks in the form of scratch marks on Jeff.
You can see that?
Could you please let us know you're here? My arm is numb. Yeah.
Our full investigation of the Heartland ghost next time on Sightings.
Oh, wow.
If you've had a paranormal experience, call.
Okay, well now I don't feel too bad about the 900 line because they're shelling out $500,000 for the equipment
The
here.
Sightings hotline at 1-900-933-SIGHT. That's 1-900-933-7444. Each call 65 cents a minute. Average call lasts 3 minutes. Sightings is also online. Our email address is sightings@aol.com.
Until next time, remember, no mystery is closed.
Trying to see if I've
to
got
an
a quick
open
video
mind.
we can watch here.
For Sightings, I'm Tim White.
Next on Sci-Fi, The Sentinel.
On the next
Hang on, give me a second here. I'm bound to be able to find something. Let's watch the let's watch that one video of Beth's. You're not alone. Make sure you know that there's help available. There we go. We can probably. I trust that one enough to bring it in on a Boyd Watch Live, Bob. I think that'd be a good. One for there. What happened to the video? Did it get taken down? Was that? Oh, there we go. Okay.
Phone. And now, for best results, ensure your skin is clean, exfoliated, and free of any moisturizers. I agree with most of that, but the moisturizers part, if you have dry skin, put on a thin layer of moisturizer. Otherwise, the dry patches will get more tan than the rest of it. I've found that happens sometimes. Put it on with a mitt that I got from Dollar Tree. And then
Ignore
after
that.
1 hour shower, shower it off. But you can wear it up to 3 hours. So what I'm going to do is, well, first I'm going to put my hair up in this. I recommend this. You can get it at like the dollar store. It's like a bath towel fabric style scrunchies, and it absorbs the water in your hair.
Did Vegan Patriot run a person over a year ago? Yes. Yeah, we watched it on an episode of Intoxicated Women Causing Disturbances.
Just make sure you get it all up.
Beth and I are in a cold war as to who can review the most ridiculous things.
Here we go. Okay. Okay, that's fine. Anyway, now, so I'll show you a little bit of the application. Not all of it, obviously, because I have to take this off for all of it, but here's my mitt.
I don't know if she'll talk about it on here, but I think it originally was like well, maybe we'll see it. She thought it was like too dark, and I was picturing like that she was worried about like being accused of doing blackface or something, but it really wasn't that dark.
I'll show you a little bit of the application, and then I'll put
Distinction, would you be serious, bro?
And then I'll leave you for a minute, and then I'll come back, and I'll do like these parts over here. I'll put this back on, and then I'll come back to show you how it looks.
Man, I like that one right there.
And then I'll come back in an hour to see how it looks, and then I'll come back in 3 hours after I've washed it off, or maybe before and after the wash off, just to get.
Yeah, we like to.
Wait, oh, this is an even better thumbnail. I'll do this.
We communicate through our thumbnails.
Okay, anyway, let's begin a little bit. Okay. Just as you guys can see what the color
Yes,
is like.
Savvy
upon
Guy
application.
definitely has great reviews.
Oh, that's a soft glove. That glove is soft.
I love Savvy Guy reviews.
Can you see it? I can see it. Okay.
Tony has some short form single item reviews too, I think. Yo, man.
Oh, this is so much better than my hands. I used my hands the last time I did this, and yeah, that was ridiculous. My hands looked fucked. Wait, let me just make sure I've gotten it in the mirror by looking everywhere.
You know, Bob, an all review Boit Watch would be kind of fun. I think I could even get a Vinny Slugga. It'd be an interesting creative challenge too to put the playlist together.
Okay. Now we'll do the other arm.
I guess it is it's significantly darker. Black cat tattoo. I would have watched this yesterday, but I didn't want to put it on. I didn't want to.
Oh, sorry.
Grace to feel like I was trying to bring Bethadone into all the content.
Okay. That's probably good for my arms. And okay, you saw a little bit of the application process like that. Now I'm gonna do the rest off
Alexa,
camera
record.
and come back. Okay, I've done my whole body, and I realized I can show you me doing my face. I know a lot of people don't put this stuff on their face. I don't care. I'm not scared. That's a thumbnail. Oh, that looks funny. Why does it look so green? I'm gonna turn into
Ask Vinny
Shrek.
to review Happy Meal toys. Oh, you know what I want? I want a video of his dad reviewing whatever they get in the drive-thru.
In the back of the neck too. Okay. Oh, wait. Did I show my boobs? I hope not. I don't think
This
so.
is just cool.
I was trying to
Crazy
look in the mirror
content.
over here. Okay. Okay, now let me put my bathing suit back on and show you what it looks like after application. Okay, so this is how it looks right after application.
She's got a video, Daninsky. There's like a tattoo map. I did, yeah. I think somebody asked her a proxy. I don't know how much of it was. There was definitely, though, talk of about that, yeah. But again, I don't know how serious it was.
Okay. And I can already see a bit of a difference, but it develops as time goes. So I will come back in 1 hour and show you guys, and then again in 3 hours. Be right back. Okay, everybody, it's been an hour. This is, oh, wait, there. It's been an hour. This is how dark I look. Let's look up closer. As you can see, it's working.
When will we're working? I'm gonna meet with her tomorrow again.
I look darker. This is after 1 hour. I'm gonna let it develop the other two and see what happens. I want to see how dark it can get. I hope I don't end up looking crazy, but I always look crazy, so there's no harm. But yeah, this is it after 1 hour of letting it develop. This is my, oh. Wait, should I show you my leg? Yeah, like that. anyway, this is it after 1 hour. I'll be back in 2 more. Okay, everybody. It has been 3 hours. This is what we got before I rinse off. Oh. You know, I didn't really even check my bag. I hope it's even. I think it is. So
I don't think so. Is she?
I look a bit like Seal. Okay, so I love this. I give it, and
Seal?
It's not giving orange at all. You saw how green it came on in application. That's giving it the oliviness to make it not turn you orange. And I have olive tones to begin with, so this really complimented me well, especially not to suck my own dick. But I give this, I haven't tried, this is the first actual quality
McRib review. Oh, come on,
self-tanner I
ATF
tried. I
Media.
used to buy mine at the dollar store in the shade deep bronze so that I could just do it once and be really dark, and it was awful. I wish I had I probably could find some pictures of that, because that was when I first started camming. So there's actually a lot of pictures and footage of me looking stupid like that. But anyway, my point is, with nothing to base it off of, like, you know, like how good this can really get, like these tanners that work in an hour or 3 hours maximum, I would say, I'm looking in the mirror every time I kind of step to the side and look this way. I mean, like, I want to say 10, but I don't have a whole lot of knowledge of if there are even better ones out there. I shoplifted this. I can't afford things like this. I don't shoplift anymore. I just still have it. I haven't shoplifted for like probably 8, 10, maybe even a year. 8 months, 10 months, maybe even a year. But anyway, that's...
I don't think 10, from my perspective, a 10 doesn't mean something is perfect. It just means like it's pretty much like as good as that product could be for you. You know what I mean? Like, I would call the Parmesan stuffed crust pizza from Domino's a 10, but if you're talking like some mythical scale of food delicate, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like for a Parmesan stuffed crust pizza, that's a 10. That's kind of how I view it.
That's where most of...
What's up, Fungus
all
Dungeon?
Of my tanning stuff that I have hoarded comes.
I know, I
has come
shoplifted
from.
this.
So, but I remember it being like $50 or something. So... that's expensive in my mind, so I don't really know what to base it off of, but it did really good. I mean, give her a look. That's nice.
Give her a look.
That gave me some nice color. I hope it doesn't all come off when I rinse, but I'm sure it won't. So, should I show you guys after I rinse? I will for good measure. I'll be back after I rinse. Okay, we're all rinsed. I think it looks pretty good.
Shoplifting in a
It looks
bikini.
a little bit
Perfect.
lighter now
10
that
out of
it's
10.
rinsed.
You get it, Randy.
Let me look in the mirror a bit. Okay, it's definitely more subtle after it's rinsed. It looks very natural. It looks extremely natural. I would give it... I don't even know if I should do 1 to 10 out of 10 with this, because I don't know what to base it off as. I'm just gonna do what Mark does and give it a thumbs up or thumbs down. I give it a thumbs up. Thank you for watching.
Wow. What is this one? Attempting to talk to the most sane. Are they live right now?
Guys, my job at the bookstore requires my dedication. Not sure that the book industry could survive me taking 3 days off.
Oh my
Plus,
God,
Fernando
Ben has
would
the
be
fish shirt on.
Not getting free cigarettes. He could die.
Oh my God.
Wow, look at this. Ruby, if you choose to go on, I'll go on with you as emotional support. Queen,
Oh boy.
WTF?
No, and here's another thing,
Interviewing
Ruby.
Ben during
Okay.
the fish shirt phase? Come on,
You know how you
guys.
like black people because you're a liberal white person? Here's your chance to help a young black woman to stream. So you get, and then you can
Oh,
say,
Ruby's in the chat.
I have a black friend. Isn't that important? Not just Hernando. I mean, he literally DM'd me too, and I literally said no. Okay, did he? Can we see that?
Can we see the DMs?
Because then you'd be right, and Grace would be wrong.
I'd be wrong.
Does it say?
Pop off, guys. I'm
what
gonna go
it says-
shower
what he said
and
to
go
Grace,
live
or
before
does it
work.
say something else. Because I didn't get that DM. Who got it?
Who on earth would pay Ruby a full pack of smokes for sex? The price is
Couple of
too
Lucy's.
high.
Couple of Lucy's. She's there.
DMs versus DMs. Let's go.
Yes. It's time to bring receipts, ladies.
XC7 DM'd me too. It's so-
Beach ball
STD
head.
test for content is good.
Do you think that Ruby is lying?
I actually don't think she's lying.
Wait, how
I don't
Yeah,
think she's
they're
a liar
live.
like
Excuse
that.
me. How would
We
show
just
you
I want to see what
No,
kind
I
of
don't know how we
vibe
know
Ben
it.
was in, and wow.
I don't know. Maybe Darius was on that show with her, Princess's show, Love or
Has
Leave
she
or
ever
whatever.
interacted with him? Maybe.
Ruby, stop messaging me. I don't want to try Cloud for syphilis. Lolcow Queens.
All right, guys,
Con?
I'm gonna
Yeah,
go.
that's
I
what
just
I'm
want to check in with
I
the Thorpes real quick. Thanks for hanging out, watching Sightings. I won't be here tomorrow in the morning. I'm gonna hang out with Bethadone, but I'm gonna try to, if time allows, I'll do another late stream like when we watched the El Presador thing. But if not, then I'll be back Thursday for the grand return of George Dorunda after a week of rest.